Chapter 1188. I yuan. Upon hearing this, Chu Yang immediately activated the magical power of the three-character classic. He cursed wildly for a while. He was really furious in his heart. Hee. The parrot was laughing in its heart. Chu Hang can be cursed like this. Interesting. I just came back and there's a good show to watch. What are you going to do in the eastern wilderness? Are you going to teach Xiao Chang'e a lesson? If you go out, you have to be careful. There are many eyes waiting for you in the light and in the dark. If you appear, you will be the focus of their attention. If you fight with Xiao Chang'e, they may be able to infer your identity from your methods if you are not careful. Kui Xinhu and the other two spoke, but Sima Jian did not say anything. However, he also wanted to see how Chu Yang would deal with the situation. Waha! The parrot saw their worried expressions and laughed so hard that it rolled on the ground. This divine bird is laughing to death. You three fools, who are you worried about? My master is called Cheating Chu, Wicked Chu, Evildor Chu, Invincible Chu, Lonely Chu. Haha, you guys are simply too funny right now. Are you guys planning to make this divine bird laugh to death, then take over this divine bird's position and inherit this divine bird's wisdom? The three immediately glared at the parrot. It's all because of you, this lousy bird. If it weren't for you, the eastern wilderness would not be in such trouble. Although they didn't say anything, the parrot was already in a bad mood. With a flick of its wings, it angrily said, "What are you glaring at? This divine bird is speaking words of wisdom. Even if the sky falls, there's Pit Chu to hold it up. You're all salty radish eaters worrying about nothing. Little bitch Chu, you are indeed a deceitful bird. It is not only a deceitful bird, it is also a wicked, degenerate bird." The parrot was overjoyed when it heard this. Waha, you three have finally begun to realize this divine bird's heaven-defying martial prowess. Aren't you hopeless? Divine bird, I give you a compliment. Its virtue was unparalleled in the world. The three of them already had a deep understanding of this parrot. Hao Dang immediately said, "I'm not afraid of godlike birds, but I'm afraid of pig-like bird." The parrot slanted its eyes and lectured, "Dang, don't think that you're a genius just because you've cultivated for a few days and gained some skills. How dare you change this divine bird's name? This divine bird is warning you, there will be no next time. If there is a next time, I will strip you naked and hang you up to dry." Hee, they want to confirm if I'm Eastern Wilderness 002, right? Then I'll fulfill their wish. Chu Yang suddenly spoke, interrupting everything. Because of the village, because of the actions of Kui Xinhu and the others, and because of these people, Chu Yang had a lot of ideas in his mind. Because of this, he also thought of his favorite way to deal with it. If the people of the Eastern Wilderness could make sacrifices for Eastern Wilderness 002, why couldn't he do the exact opposite? Since you want to know, I'll let you know. I'm telling the truth. It's up to you all to believe me. Eastern Wilderness, don't you think you should think about it again? Kui Xinhu and the others were shocked, and Sima Jian couldn't help but look at Chu Yang. Don't worry. Chu Yang sneered, since they've already suspected me, it's useless to cover it up. It's better to give them a big surprise. Chu Yang didn't like to be secretive, and there were always times when he would make mistakes. It was better to pretend to be himself and confuse the people of the Sky Academy. Then why don't you get out now? Sima Jian suddenly said. In fact, he was also surprised by Chu Yang's response. He was very surprised, and he thought that some people might be more surprised than him. Yes, Sword God, I'll get out right now. Chu Yang flew straight out of the seal. Before he arrived, his voice was heard first, "Time is too thin, and the gap between my fingers is too wide. A casual glance, years have passed. You all miss me very much, miss my heroic appearance, my martial prowess, and my naughty smile. That's right, everyone, I'm indeed more handsome now than before." Chapter 1189. Waha. The parrot also laughed out loud. "Wait. You're not expecting me to appear again, but you're looking for an excuse not to leave. But how can this divine bird disappoint you? Today, I'll definitely let you bask in my glory again." Kui Xinhu and the other two were instantly convinced. They spoke a little too early just now. The parrot's shamelessness was definitely not below Chu Yang's. It was true that like master, like martial pet. And this martial pet was even more shameless than the master. Swish. As soon as Chu Yang appeared, he saw the crowd, a bustling crowd. He was naturally not surprised. Xiao Chang'e came to hoot. How could no one come to watch the show? At the front of the crowd was a slender young man with an incomparably handsome face. The moment Chu Yang appeared, he suddenly gritted his teeth, and a flood of hatred erupted in his eyes. His sharp gaze was like two spears, directly piercing over. This thing is Xiao Chang'e. Chu Yang glanced at him slightly and immediately sensed his cultivation, 9th tier of the Transcendence Realm cultivation. But he did not pay attention to him and did his own thing. Heaven-blessed martial arts. Chu Yang's voice just came out clearly, and the parrot followed up from behind. Bird handsome, live well. Sky flash, I shine on the stage. Sky flash, I shine on the stage. Chu Yang and the parrot followed and struck a pose, majestic and awe-inspiring, and said in unison, "We're the descendants of the demon." Behind, Kui Xinhu and the others directly collapsed. When the crowd saw this bizarre combination, they suddenly fell silent. It was as if they were shocked, or perhaps they didn't know how to react. Everyone, long time no see. How are you? Everyone, long time no see. I miss you very much. After Chu Yang finished his appearance, he began to ask for applause. Everyone, where's the applause, the shouting, the screaming? I've become more and more handsome. Aren't you excited? My fangirls, where are you? The people of the Sky Academy finally burst into laughter. Although some of them had seen Chu Yang before, or heard that Chu Yang seemed to be very shameless, they had never expected that he would be so ridiculous. It could be said that this was simply amazing. How could there be such a weirdo in this world? Everyone, it's been a long time. Chu Yang opened his mouth again. It seems that all of you still don't understand what kind of earth-shaking changes I have undergone. Now, allow me to explain in detail. Hee hee. Chu Yang said with a sinister smile, "Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard of any unimaginable earth-shattering news that has shaken the entire East continent recently? That's right, I'm East Wasteland 002, the omnipotent East Wasteland 002 who has charmed thousands of young girls and is doted upon by thousands of people." You're right. The parrot continued, "I am the divine bird on the shoulder of Eastern Wilderness 002, the bird that charmed thousands of female birds and is loved by thousands of people." When Kui Xinhu, Hao Dong, and Oyu Luzheng heard this, they found that the parrot could not keep up with Chu Yang's rhythm. Charmed thousands of female birds. Obviously, his level was not high enough. As for the others, they felt as if they had been hit by a stick. They were a little dizzy and a little dizzy. Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002. Why were they not surprised and did not believe it at all? They were really a little dizzy and confused, and their feet seemed to be a little light. Even though they had heard that Eastern Wilderness 002 seemed to be very unreliable, with all kinds of weird things happening, Chu Yang in front of them was also the same, but it seemed to be more excessive, and it seemed to be a little too stiff, a forced weirdo. Xiao Chang'e was also very confused now. As soon as he heard that Chu Yang claimed to be Eastern Wilderness 002, he was shocked, but he soon found that he could not believe it. As for the reason, he did not know. Chapter 1190. As soon as the news of Chu Yang's appearance and claiming to be Eastern Wilderness 002 spread, the Sky Academy rushed over. Miss, is your future husband selling himself like a madman again?" Shangguan Mai had been paying attention to this matter. When Chu Yang appeared, she immediately informed Shangguan Lan through the voice-transmitting charm. "Damned girl, I'll tear your mouth off later." Shangguan Lan blushed and used the transmission formation. Her delicate body flashed and disappeared from her courtyard. In the blink of an eye, she arrived and flew to Shangguan Mai's side. When she arrived, she found that her brother Yang was being watched and targeted to a great extent. There was a sea of people, and she didn't know how many people had come. Many directors of the Sky Academy had come, and they were all over the sky. Soul Merging Sage, Fa Xiong Sage, Nirvana Sage. The people that Shangguan Lan noticed were all extraordinary. Among the three people, Soul-merging Sage was the director of the outer courtyard of the Sky Academy, Effaceong Sage was the director of the inner courtyard, and Nirvana Sage was the director of the elite courtyard. The Sky Academy was divided into the upper courtyard and the lower courtyard. According to the level of the students, the upper courtyard was divided into the outer courtyard, the inner courtyard, and the elite courtyard. In fact, there was also a courtyard of saints, but the saints were not ordinary students of the Sky Academy, and it was difficult to control them. Therefore, there was no director of the courtyard of saints. Only the Saint Master could control the saints. Most of the students of the outer courtyard were in the soul-merging realm, while most of the students of the inner courtyard were in the Effaceong realm. Most of the students of the elite courtyard were in the Nirvana realm. It was said that because of this, the directors of the three courtyards were called Soul-merging Sage, Effaceong Sage, and Nirvana Sage. Shangguan Lan suddenly looked at a certain place in the void, and her beautiful eyes were shining. She thought to herself, is the Saint Master also here? With her keen senses, she sensed an extremely unusual fluctuation. It seems that everyone wants to know whether Brother Yang is Eastern Wilderness 002 or not, and they are scheming for this. How could she not know what had happened these days? As for whether or not Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002, she wasn't sure herself and was quite curious. In addition to these people, Shangguan Lan also found a few abnormally powerful auras. She glanced over and a few slender figures were imprinted in her eyes. Gong Sun Long. In the middle of the crowd, there was a man in his mid-20s. He had a sturdy body, a ferocious face, and a strong back and a bare waist. His arms were exposed, and there were hideous scars on them. They looked like centipedes that covered his entire arm. He looked a little scary, and his whole body was filled with a murderous aura. At first glance, he looked like the kind of person who often bled on the edge of a blade. But who would have thought that he was actually the genius disciple of the famous Gongsun family in the East Continent, Gongsun Long? Gongsun Long had amazing talent, but he was fierce and aggressive. He had only been in the Sky Academy for a little more than a year, but many people had died in his hands. Chu Yang's elder brother, Chu Fei, had his arm cut off by him. At that time, if it weren't for Shangguan Lan, Chu Fei would have been killed by Gongsun Long. Brother Yang will definitely not let this Gongsun Long go. He will fight with him sooner or later. Shangguan Lan frowned. Brother Yang is even more ridiculous. He has just entered the Sky Academy, but he has already made the Sky Academy restless. He also killed Gongsun Long's younger brother, Gongsun Ying, and he will not rest until Gongsun Long is dead. In addition to Gongsun Long, she noticed a few people who immediately made her unhappy and even disgusted. Miss, you should restrain your aura. Otherwise, Xia Wanjin and the others will notice it, especially that half-human half-demon Liu Yunpeng. He will stick to you like a dogskin plaster. Chapter 1191. At this moment, at the edge of Shangguan Mai's line of sight, there was a man with slightly pointy ears, like the tip of a small lotus. His face was very feminine and incomparably beautiful. Even beautiful women would feel ashamed of their inferiority. This man was Liu Yunpeng. The Xia Wanjin she mentioned was a young man in golden clothes, and his appearance was also incomparably handsome. The difference was that compared to Liu Yunpeng, he was more masculine and had an incomparable aura of wealth. Miss, and your future husband, after just a shining appearance, he claimed to be Eastern Wilderness 002. Shangguan Mai told Shangguan Lan the general situation. The combination of a sheep and a bird can be described as a weirdo. At this time, the red bird on Shangguan Mai's shoulder said very unhappily. Just now, when it suddenly heard the parrot claim to be a handsome bird, it immediately put the parrot into the ranks of the dirty ruffians. If the parrot knew, it would refute that it was not evil, but the bird was not pure. It was just a simple sentence. Look at what was in its head. How could it think of the supreme glory of carrying on the family line? Everyone, I am a pear blossom, handsome and handsome. Where are your applause and screams? At this time, after Chu Yang claimed to be Eastern Wilderness 002, he said again, everyone, after not seeing each other for a few days, am I not the object of your love? Brother Sheep, you are really selling yourself like crazy again. How can you be so shameless to praise yourself like this? Shangguan Lan whispered. Chu Yang, she had imagined what kind of person he would be countless times, but she had to say that such a Chu Yang absolutely surprised her. Miss, this is already good. The red bird heard Shangguan Mai's words and nodded. They were both shameless, but Chu Yang was much better than the parrot. However, Mrs. future husband is still a little talented. Shangguan Mai smiled and said, time is too thin, the gap between the fingers is too wide, a casual glance, after a long time, this sentence is still very good. Hong Neo immediately compared the parrot to Chu Yang, and found that the parrot was both shameless and untalented. Where are my fangirls? How can you abandon me when I need you the most? There was no applause. Chu Yang immediately looked at the beautiful young girls in the field. Soon, his eyes met Shangguan Lan's. After a slight pause, he fixed his eyes on Shangguan Lan. Brother Goat, you really did sense me earlier. Shangguan Lan lowered her head and avoided Chu Yang's burning gaze. Then, it seemed that because of Chu Yang, Liu Yunpeng found Shangguan Lan. He was delighted and immediately flew towards Shangguan Lan. What the hell is that? How dare you flirt with my future wife in front of me? I'll beat you to death. Chu Yang glared at him. Wild dog, are you done being crazy? Xiao Changa's words instantly angered Chu Yang. The corner of his mouth immediately curled up, and he looked at Xiao Changa, Eastern Maggot. Before I came back, I heard that you've cultivated the 3-character scripture to the peak. I treated you as a little brat who lacked discipline, so I didn't bother with you. If you don't have any manners, I'll take care of you on behalf of your parent. Chapter 1192. Little brat, go play in the mud. This is an adult's business. What do you know? If you dare to spout nonsense again, I'll slap you. Chu Yang held back his anger and got down to business first. I can see from your eyes that you really don't believe in my heavenly martial prowess, but I'm really Eastern Wilderness 002. What do you want? Do you want me to prove that I'm me? With that, he pointed at Xiao Changa. You're like asking this little brat to come here and give me a certificate to prove that his father is his father and his mother is his mother. But you want me to give such a weird certificate. Don't you think it's embarrassing? Don't you think you're weird? It seemed to make a lot of sense, but who was the weirdo? Who could be weirder than you? Wild dog, do you dare to fight with me at the same level? Xiao Changa was repeatedly ignored and belittled by Chu Yang. He couldn't hold back his anger and was furious. Noisy. Chu Yang said impatiently. Eastern Maggot, in order to avoid noise pollution, I'll satisfy you. He stretched out a finger. One finger is enough to deal with a little brat like you, but immediately, he couldn't help muttering, I'm afraid I'll be called an adult bullying a child. It's really a headache. Chu Yang couldn't help but scratch his hair and frown. Wild dog, how dare you humiliate me like this? Xiao Changa was infuriated. He cupped his fists towards the Nirvana sage in midair and said in a clear voice, Grandpa Do, please help me set up the battle forbidden zone. I want to fiercely teach this wild dog a lesson and vent my anger first. In the future, I'll take his dog head and offer it to my grandpa. Little Changa, this is the Sky Academy. The Academy rules are the Academy rules. Do you know? Changa knows. That's good. After that, the Nirvana sage shook his hand and a light shield fell on a flat ground. Then, it sank into the ground, but there was a restrictive force flowing there. Whoosh. Xiao Changa flew in and pointed at Chu Yang. Wild dog, in this battle forbidden zone, your realm will be restricted to the soul amalgamation realm. I want to see how you're going to defeat me with a single finger. Chu Yang shook his head. I've always butchered people like Bei Chunxing or Li Shengsan. How sad. Today, I, a dignified 30,000-meter body, actually have to deal with a little lousy kid. My life has truly been a failure at this point. This Chu Yang really thought he was Eastern Wilderness 002. After everyone heard this, they became even more confused. Wild dog, cut the crap. Do you dare or not? Is this a question of whether I dare or not? Chu Yang was distressed. This matter is related to my face as a heavenly martial artist. If this matter were to spread out, they would say that I'm bullying the old and young. How unpleasant would that be? You have to think for me. He's only at the spirit stage. Where did his confidence come from? Could it be that Chu Yang is really Eastern Wilderness 002? The people of the Sky Academy were completely confused. Chu Yang had also entered the battle forbidden zone. He put one hand behind his back and raised a finger. He said to Xiao Chang'e, "Little lousy kid, don't cry when you lose. Although I only used a finger, I did bully you." Xiao Chang'e snorted angrily. He no longer bickered with Chu Yang shamelessly and directly attacked. When he was 50 feet away from Chu Yang, he had already activated his spiritual qi. Divine light erupted from his body as he slammed his palm over. The spiritual qi surged like a torrential river and immediately turned into yellow sand that filled the sky. In an instant, it turned into a desert. The desert was filled with smoke, and the yellow sand seemed to be gold. Chapter 1193. Rumble. Thunder and lightning appeared in the desert. Thunder rumbled and snakes danced in the air. Whoosh, violent winds howled. Originally, the appearance of lightning in the desert was extremely strange, but at this time, the violent winds swept out, making the desert even more violent. An enormous sandstorm was swept up, and the momentum was even more terrifying. Wild dog, this move is very simple. It's just the fusion of sand, wind, and thunder. If you want to defeat me with one finger, then I'll just raise my hand and beat you up. After Xiao Chang'e finished speaking, he laughed and was in high spirits. However, the power of his palm surged out continuously. The power became more and more astonishing. In an instant, it drowned Chu Yang. Little Chang'e, not bad. The Nirvana sage stroked his beard and smiled, as expected of Brother Xiao's grandson. The fusion of wind and sand martial soul has the ability to turn sand into sand. It's already amazing. After evolving the desert, it's even more amazing. At present, even a 9th level soul fusion realm martial artist would find it difficult to resist. If they're not careful, they'll be turned into sand. Xiao Chang'e's martial soul was the fusion of wind and sand. Among them, the sand martial soul had the ability to turn sand into sand. If he could cross realms, he could easily kill his grandfather. Thus, it should be enough for him to fight Chu Yang. The soul fusion sage nodded and said, although his realm was restricted and he fell from the transcendence realm to the spirit realm, he still comprehended the mysteries of magic power. When he used it, the desert he evolved was even more realistic than the soul fusion realm martial soul. He could even erupt thunder in the desert. When did the desert have thunder? The Transcendence Sage also praised, to be able to embed disharmonious thunder in the desert, he can be said to be a genius among geniuses. Little brat, don't you know that I killed your grandfather? I don't know. Don't you know that I'm Eastern Wilderness 002? You're indeed a child. You don't know how powerful I am, Chu Yang said repeatedly. As for Xiao Chang'e's means, he didn't take it seriously. Yes, it was indeed amazing. However, who could be his opponent in the same realm? He could be said to be invincible in the same realm. At the very least, he had yet to meet an opponent who could contend against him at the same cultivation level. He raised his index finger and pointed forward. Suddenly, a dazzling sword ray shot out. Shocking divine sword art. Everyone in the Sky Academy was shocked. Who didn't know about Sima Jian's shocking divine sword art? The sword light shot out, and after entering the desert, it immediately divided into 7 or 8 rays of light. One ray of light soared into the sky, turning into a black cloud and pouring rain. 3 rays of light turned into 3 towering mountains and fell down, blocking the sandstorm. The remaining rays of light exploded, turning into specks of light that entered the desert. Soon after, saplings began to grow, instantly turning into towering trees. Xiao Chang'e's desert turned into a mountain forest in the blink of an eye. It's not the astounding divine sword art. It doesn't seem to be the 5 elements sword art either. What kind of method is this? The Nirvana sage and the other 2 exclaimed in unison. Using mountains to stop the sandstorm, thunder to produce rain, and wood to suppress sand, he turned the desert into a lush mountain forest. This was simply a method of creation. How could the 3 of them not be shocked? This was indeed a method of creation. Although Chu Yang didn't take Xiao Chang'e seriously, it was absolutely amazing. Xiao Chang'e was also stunned, and the smile on his face disappeared. Then, he saw the mountain forest turn into a divine sword and shoot at him. It can change? How is this possible? It was like two armies fighting. As soon as Xiao Chang'e's army started to fight, all his soldiers changed sides and rushed at him with the enemy. His expression changed drastically, and he shouted angrily. Spirit chi gushed out from his body, and he turned into a huge golden sandman. He held a golden shield in his hand, and the grains of sand on the shield were like divine gold, shining with a metallic luster. He roared, "Desert Guardian!" The huge golden sandman, like a god, seemed to have its dignity blasphemed and was roaring angrily. The mountain forest turned into a divine sword and stabbed at him. The sand shield exploded with a bang, and the sandman was also pierced through and collapsed directly. Xiao Chang'e only felt that the sword chi was so dense that it could stab him to death. Suddenly, his face turned extremely pale. Chapter 1194. With a thought, Chu Yang's divine sword exploded, and he shook his head repeatedly. A little brat is indeed a little brat. He really can't stand my finger. Fortunately, I was prepared and thought of stopping before I attacked. Otherwise, wouldn't I have killed a little brat? Puff. Hearing this, Xiao Chang'e, who had been holding back from spitting out blood, couldn't hold it in any more at this moment. He opened his mouth and spat out a river of blood. Chu Yang thought to himself, "How dare you insult me like this? I'll anger you to death." He continued, "Little brat, are you going to spit out all your blood and then commit suicide? Oh heavens, wouldn't this make me a vicious, merciless, and inhumane demon who even kills children? Who's going to save me?" Hearing Chu Yang's screams, Xiao Chang'e was so angry that he fainted directly. Swish. Chu Yang rushed over and shouted loudly, "Little brat, don't die. What will happen to my wisdom if you die?" The people of the Sky Academy didn't know what to say anymore. This was simply courting death. Xiao Chang'e was seriously injured, and he still humiliated him like this. Fortunately, the little brat is not dead yet. My godly martial arts is still here. Chu Yang suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. His relieved look made Shangguan Lan burst into laughter. Liu Yunpeng, who was at the side, immediately shot a sharp look at Chu Yang. He couldn't wait to cut Chu Yang into pieces. He tried his best to win a smile from the beauty, but he couldn't. He didn't expect that today, a wild dog would do what he dreamed of. How could he bear it? Chu Yang wanted to kill Xiao Chang'e directly and eliminate the hidden danger, but he couldn't. This was the Sky Academy, and many people were watching. Soon, someone took Xiao Chang'e away for treatment. Chu Yang expressed his gratitude to them and asked them to save the little brat. They didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and they just rolled their eyes. "Everyone, I've sent that noisy brat flying with a single slap. Now, it's time to get down to business," Chu Yang said. "I'm really Eastern Wilderness 002. What do you want me to do? Do you really want me to prove that I'm me?" The expressions on Kui Xinhu and the other two's faces were extremely interesting. They didn't know how to evaluate Chu Yang at all, so they could only say, "Good, Eastern Wilderness, you're really good." They were truly convinced. Waraha. The parrot let out a strange laugh and said, "Everyone, this divine bird can guarantee that my lord's every word is like real gold, sparkling and shining. It really can't be any more real. I ask you all to loudly shout, 'My lord is lonely like snow, there is no enemy in the world, this little sister is invincible.'" What a mess. The people of the Sky Academy felt that this parrot was beyond saving. As for the parrot's personality, it was not worth a penny. "Why don't you believe me?" Chu Yang started to feel extremely sad. Then, he sang emotionally, "I will always love this me." He was being shameless again. Shangguan Lan's eyes widened, and her mouth was wide open. She suddenly began to feel that her face was burning. How could his fiancée be such a person? And the first line was already so shameless. How could the following lines be so shameless? The expressions of the people present were also very strange. They stared blankly at this incredible scene, and their minds seemed to be unable to function. The Nirvana sage, the Dharma aspect sage, and the soul-merging sage. Originally, Chu Yang was extremely shocked, but such emotions were instantly swept away. They really couldn't describe Chu Yang in words. After living for so long, it was the first time they had seen such a person. There is more than one way to be happy. Suddenly, there was only Chu Yang singing in the field, and the whole scene seemed to have become Chu Yang's concert. Chapter 1195. The most honorable thing is that everyone is the glory of the Creator. There is no need to hide, live for the life I like. There is no need for powder, just stand in the corner of the light. I am me, a firework with a different color. In the extreme silence, Chu Yang finished singing the entire song. At this time, there was still no sound in the audience. Phew. Shangguan Lan let out a long sigh of relief and finally felt relieved. Although the song is weird, it is not too embarrassing. Flutter. The parrot immediately flew over and shouted, "Master, it's my turn to sing a song. You can't drag me down for such a thing." At the same time, it asked for a song from Chu Yang. It wanted to be as cool as the one just now. I am me, a firework with a different color. After Chu Yang gave it to him, he opened his eyes wide. What do you mean by sometimes I feel like a little bird? This divine bird is a bird. It's fine if it's a little bird, but it can't fly high. Wicked, too wicked. This is a complete scam. But under the eyes of the audience, it would be more embarrassing if it didn't sing, so it could only sing, I am a little bird, I want to fly, but I can't fly high. The parrot could copy this song after listening to it once, so it definitely had a rhythm when it sang it. I am a little bird, haha. Kui Shinhu and the other two couldn't help it. They knew too well about Chu Yang and the parrot's prank. They immediately burst into laughter, and the audience burst into laughter. However, the parrot was very strong. After singing the entire song, it faced the audience with a strange smile. A bird is a bird with a different color. You people don't understand birds. Haha. The audience burst into laughter again, which made the parrot very depressed. Why did the wicked bird have to sing? And the audience was dead silent, listening attentively. It was a divine bird, and when it opened its mouth to sing, it laughed. Waha. Chu Yang also suddenly laughed. In an instant, even though Shangguan Lan was mentally prepared, when she heard Chu Yang's strange laughter, her head directly lowered, almost drilling into the ground. One had to know that this weirdo was her fiancé. How was she supposed to live? Oh no. Chu Yang noticed Shangguan Lan's expression and his heart skipped a beat. He had been under a lot of pressure recently and wanted to go crazy. He didn't expect that there would be such side effects. The parrot wasn't in a good mood either. It glared at Meng Hao and said, Chu Hang, it was you who tricked the bird just now. What are you laughing at? Others laugh at me for being too crazy, and I laugh at them for not being able to see through it. Chu Yang had no choice but to be strong and continue to laugh. Then he pointed at the parrot and said, You should have been like this, little bitch. The parrot's eyes lit up again, but then it became even more depressed. The scammer's on-the-spot guidance would only make it seem worse. Brother Goat, is this the reason why you're so carefree and don't care about others? Shangguan Lan raised her head and looked at Chu Yang faintly. Only then did Chu Yang let out a long sigh of relief. She's finally saved, and we've given her a good preventive shot. As for the Nirvana sage and the others, their faces were gloomy. The man and the bird had teamed up to make fun of each other. They didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so their minds were in a mess, let alone find out anything or make any judgment. They came with expectations, but they went back empty-handed. The Nirvana sage frowned and thought for a while. After discussing with the Fa Xiong sage and the soul-merging sage, he immediately said, Chu Yang, the Academy has decided to abolish the rule that those who enter the Sky Academy from the Eastern Wilderness can only enter the Chores Academy no matter what the result of the assessment is. There was an uproar in the crowd, but it soon quieted down. After all, this matter had long been spread and everyone knew. The Academy intends to start with you. Chapter 1196. Chu Yang looked up at the Nirvana sage and the other two in the air and laughed in his heart. You must be confused after what I did. Are you going to confirm my identity through the test? Excuse me, how should I address you, Mr. Fang Yuan of the Heavenly Court? Chu Yang's words made everyone in the Sky Academy want to laugh again. What Fang Yuan of the Heavenly Court? He's really good at it. I'm the Nirvana Sage of the Elite Academy. The Nirvana Sage was being ridiculed by Chu Yang, but he could do nothing about it. If it were someone else, he would have slapped him to death, but he didn't have the guts to do that since the one in the Eastern Wilderness was still alive. He could only let Chu Yang be presumptuous. So you're a sage. No wonder you know astronomy and geography. You're as good as me. You're handsome and have a good life. Chu Yang cupped his fists. Sorry for the disrespect. I'm just asking. I'm Eastern Wilderness 002, the best in the East Continent. Do I still need to test? I'm definitely a saint of the Sky Academy. Here we go again. The people in the Sky Academy were even more confused now. They couldn't be sure whether Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002 or not. How can you prove that you're Eastern Wilderness 002? The Nirvana Sage and the others were also confused. If Chu Yang was really Eastern Wilderness 002, he should hide his identity. Otherwise, if he was exposed, didn't he know what kind of danger he would face? Chu Yang shrugged his shoulders. Prove that I'm me? Aren't you making things difficult for me? It's said that Eastern Wilderness 002 has sunk into the seven-wheel demon realm. How can you come out of it? Chu Yang snapped his fingers and said, that's easy. If I can make the seven wheels demonic territory sink, I can naturally make the seven wheels demonic territory appear again. Do you think it's difficult for me to come out? It was equivalent to not saying anything. You don't believe me? The Nirvana Sage continued to ask. Eastern Wilderness 002 can use the seven Neels of the Star Lord. Can you use it? I say, this heavenly court is full and round. Have you not understood the seven-wheel demonic region? Chu Yang said proudly, in the seven demonic domains, I am the supreme ruler. I can execute anything I want. It can be said that I can execute the law with a single thought. Not to mention the seven Neels of a Star Venerate, I can even execute the seven Neels of a Star Venerate. As for now, although I am still omnipotent, I still need to ponder over the seven Neels of the Star Venerates for a while before I can execute it. It was still the same as saying nothing. Nirvana Sage said directly, even if you are Eastern Wilderness 002, you still need to abide by the Academy's rules and pass the Academy's assessment to determine whether you are an outer courtyard student or an inner courtyard student. The heavenly court is full and round. You are not done yet. How about this? Chu Yang's gaze swept past the Nirvana Sage, the Dharma Sage, and the others. Suddenly, the world of the seven wheels in his body shook and buzzed. It rushed out endless ripples in the void and rippled in all directions. With a rumbling sound, the void behind him exploded. 8 divine bridges that were 10,000 feet long appeared. It was as if 8 divine dragons had drilled out from the void and entered his body. His entire body erupted with an extremely dazzling radiance. He opened his hand, and many stars condensed in his palm. In the blink of an eye, it was as if a starry sky had condensed in his empty stomach. It was extremely shocking. Gasp. Everyone couldn't help but gasp. They couldn't help but exclaim, how can there be such a huge divine bridge? His divine bridge is actually 10,000 feet long. My God, am I seeing things? If my divine bridge is compared to his, my divine bridge will be thrown away and I will die. Is he still a human? Everyone was surprised by Chu Yang's divine bridge. Almost no one paid attention to the starry sky condensed in his palm. Even the Nirvana Sage and the other two were the same. To everyone's surprise, Chu Yang was majestic and awe-inspiring. He said loudly, I, Chu Yang, am here to challenge the Sky Academy. I challenge all of you as a test. Chapter 1197. What? As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked and thought that they had misheard. Chu Yang actually wanted to challenge someone from the Sky Academy. The Sky Academy was full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There were many talents in the Sky Academy, and they were all geniuses. One could see monsters just by looking up, and there were countless people who hid their strength. The water was so deep. Who dared to say that he wanted to challenge someone from the Sky Academy? Savage, incomparably savage. Even if Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002, he didn't have this ability. Yes, Eastern Wilderness 002 had slaughtered many people in the Seven-Wheel Demon Zone. He killed Bei Chunxing of the Stars Fighting Academy, Li Shengsan of the Nature Academy, and even drove the heads of the 6 academies to flee like dogs. However, he did that with the help of the Thunder Tribulation and the Seven-Wheel Demon Zone. It was undeniable that Eastern Wilderness 002 was extremely amazing. The East Continent was afraid of his growth, but in fact, they were really afraid of the Supreme Demon Venerable. The Supreme Demon Venerable couldn't imagine that just his corpse had completely destroyed the ancient demon sect that had once ruled the East Continent. It was unimaginably horrible. If Eastern Wilderness 002 was the descendant of the Supreme Demon Venerable, the East Continent had to be afraid even if the Supreme Demon Venerable was dead. How could such a supreme existence not have relatives and friends? No matter how weak his relatives and friends were, they were not people that the major forces of the East Continent could provoke. They could all be destroyed by the Supreme Demon Venerable. Therefore, the Eastern Wilderness 002 in the East Continent was really afraid of this place. As for East Wasteland 002 alone, he might not be able to do much. At most, the East Continent would have to pay a heavy price to kill him. After all, if Eastern Wilderness 002 was only one person, it was absolutely impossible for him to shake the whole East Continent and make the whole East Continent surrender. However, even so, Chu Yang was now going to challenge someone from the Sky Academy. Did he really think that he was invincible in the same realm? Bei Chunxing and Li Shengsan's talents were indeed shocking, but they were definitely not the most talented or shocking disciples in the Star Combat Academy and the Myriad Elephant Courtyard. Every single one of the 6 great academies was unfathomable. Sometimes, the most famous disciples only appeared on the surface. The true successors had no reputation at all, but they were incomparably powerful. They would only appear when the academy was in danger. This kind of thing was not rare. It had happened many times before. The extraterrestrial demons attacked the East Continent through the space-time tunnel. Most of them were famous geniuses and monsters who were in the front line to observe the strength of the extraterrestrial demons. In the end, it was these unknown geniuses who resisted the extraterrestrial demons. Although the headmasters of the 6 great academies were the headmasters of their respective academies and had extremely honorable statuses, they were definitely not the ultimate fighting force of the 6 great academies. Otherwise, if Bei Chunxing and Li Shengsan were the future hopes of the 2 great academies respectively, their deaths would cause great damage to the 2 great academies. At that time, how could the headmasters of the 2 great academies let Chu Yang kill them in the Seven-Wheel Demon region? In short, Bei Chunxing and Li Shengsan were indeed extraordinary, but their deaths would not cause any damage to the 2 great academies. The same was true for the Sky Academy. Therefore, Chu Yang's behavior was simply arrogant. The ignorant are fearless. What does he think the Sky Academy is? Shallow water, a shallow beach, a well, or a pond? The real talents of the Sky Academy haven't shown up yet, but he dares to be so arrogant. There is no need to mention those people. The Qianzi of our Sky Academy alone is extremely terrifying. Not to mention Chu Yang, even the Eastern Wilderness 002 will definitely be crushed by the Qianzi in the same realm. We don't need the Qianzi. I think the 5 elements seed alone is enough. Chapter 1198. Brother Sheep. Shangguan Lan's beautiful eyes were also full of horror. She looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. Hong Neo said, in addition to being crazy, the little sheep can also be crazy. It's much better than that parrot. Even if it is beaten like a dog, it can still be arrogant. Shangguan Mai glanced at Hong Neo speechlessly. She didn't see what was so good about it. Being crazy was already terrible enough. If it was still crazy, it was really hopeless. The faces of the Nirvana sage, the Dharma sage, and the others became very ugly. Chu Yang didn't take the students of the Sky Academy seriously. How dare he challenge them, the older generation? It was obvious that he didn't even take them seriously. However, although Chu Yang was arrogant, he did have the capital. His divine bridge alone was enough for him to look down on many heroes in the world. Eastern Wilderness, Don't you think about it again? Kui Shinhu, Oyu Luzheng, and Hao Dong were also scared to death by Chu Yang. They anxiously transmitted their voices to each other secretly. Stupid bird, why don't you persuade him? Waha. When the parrot heard the message, it let out a strange laugh. Then it secretly sent a mocking message to the three of them, saying, the three of you need to improve your thinking and awareness. You need to learn a lot. Pitfall Chu is still far from it. This unreliable bird. However, they found that Chu Yang didn't seem to be swayed at all. Of course, Chu Yang wouldn't be swayed. Apart from his other identities, Eastern Wilderness 002 was far from enough. In the Sky Academy, he would always be targeted. It was better to just let loose. In this way, he could deter them and save himself some trouble in the future. Everyone, does anyone dare to fight with me? Chu Yang was like a god. He glanced at the audience and challenged everyone majestically. Humph, you're just a wild dog. How dare you boast so shamelessly? A cold snort rang out. The crowd immediately moved to the side where the sound came from. A tall and sturdy young man walked out with a sneer. Chu Yang's eyes swept over him, and he immediately felt that there was an extremely vigorous power in his body. In his mind, all kinds of scenes appeared. An object alternated between a dragon and an elephant, and finally settled on a divine elephant. Its whole body burst out with Buddhist light, and the sound of Sanskrit was heard. With one step, the earth sank, and thousands of evil spirits were turned into ashes. Dragon elephant of Buddhism, dragon elephant martial spirit. Dragons and elephants have great strength. In water, dragons have great strength, and on land, elephants have great strength. Elephants were serene and dignified, gentle and spiritual, tall and sturdy, and were respected by the ancients as auspicious beasts. It symbolized wisdom and totems, giving people endless reverie and contemplation. Elephants were closely related to Buddha. They were virtuous and wise Buddhas. According to legend, the birth of Shakyamuni Buddha was deeply related to elephants. One day, Shakyamuni Buddha's mother, Madam Maya, came to the pavilion under the Bodhi tree in the back garden. She lay on the bed and unknowingly fell asleep, entering a sweet dream. She dreamt that a white elephant accompanied by a white light descended from the sky and fell into her right rib. From then on, she became pregnant, and Shakyamuni Buddha was born. Chu Yang had already grasped the profoundness of elephant crossing the river and cutting off the flow. This person isn't simple. His heart trembled slightly. The East continent was indeed filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. He had underestimated the East continent. Xiong Longxiang. It's actually Xiong Longxiang from the inner court. This wild dog is finished. Xiong Longxiang. His martial spirit is the dragon elephant martial spirit from Buddhism. He has great strength. I never expected him to appear. I heard that when he was only at the Soul Wheel realm, he killed a Spirit Realm Stage 1 with a single punch. What's even more shocking is that he's not a physique cultivator, but he has great strength. He's even more terrifying than a physique cultivator. How could Xiong Longxiang be interested in a physique cultivator? With the dragon elephant martial spirit, there's no need to worry about his strength. Chapter 1199. Xiong Longxiang walked straight over and arrived in front of Chu Yang. He placed his hands behind his back and stood straight. He looked down at Chu Yang and said, "Wild dog, you only won one match, and you dare to be so arrogant. Even if you are Eastern Wilderness 002, I will make you kneel down and kowtow to me today." As he spoke, an invisible pressure rumbled towards Chu Yang from Xiong Longxiang's body. The abundant divine power seemed to be able to open a gap in the sky, and all kinds of energy gathered to form an ocean. Chu Yang's body didn't move. In terms of strength, he had never been weaker than anyone. He directly commented on Xiong Longxiang, "You are slightly stronger than this brat." Boom. There was another uproar in the crowd. Those who dared to say such words to Xiong Longxiang had already been beaten to death. Arrogant. Xiong Longxiang looked down at the world and said to Chu Yang, "In the same realm, I can crush a piece of trash like you with a single finger. To tell you the truth, your talent is nothing." Chu Yang was too lazy to talk to him. He looked at the 3 Nirvana sages in midair and said, "Do the 3 of you want to bet with me in this round? I have 10 spirit veins now. I'll bet 10 spirit veins. Do you dare to bet with me? Or..." He looked at the people from the Sky Academy and said, "Which one of you dares to bet with me?" Spiritual stones, spiritual liquid, and spiritual veins were all needed by the cultivators in the East continent. The 3 were divided into 3 grades: high, middle, and low. Generally speaking, ordinary cultivators mostly used spiritual stones, and very few of them had access to spiritual liquid. Needless to say, only people like Bei Chunxing and Li Shengsan had access to spiritual veins. Spiritual veins gathered the essence of heaven and earth, making the spiritual qi purer and more vigorous. The spiritual energy within a low-rank spiritual vein was enough to allow a normal cultivator to cultivate from the origin martial stage to the soul circulation stage. A middle-rank spiritual vein could allow one to cultivate to the spirit stage, while a high-rank spiritual vein could allow one to cultivate to the soul fusion stage. Of course, this was for ordinary cultivators. If it was someone with a huge appetite like Chu Yang, no amount of spirit veins would be enough for him. Just the worlds formed by the 7 souls were 7 bottomless pits. He had already done some calculations. He had obtained a total of 13 spirit veins from Bei Chunxing and Li Shengsan. He had given 3 to Wang Bushang, so he still had 10 left. There were 3 high-grade spirit veins, 3 middle-grade spirit veins, and 4 low-grade spirit veins. Kui Xinhu and the other 2 each had 1 spirit vein. The parrot had 1 spirit vein, so there weren't many left. Now that there was an opportunity, Chu Yang naturally wanted to earn a little. Xiong Longxiang was crazy, but Chu Yang was even crazier. His craziness was not only reflected in his words, but also in his actions. Everyone couldn't help but become silent. 10 spiritual veins were a huge fortune, and Chu Yang had actually gambled all of them. If he wasn't so crazy that he had blinded his mind, then he must have absolute confidence in himself. "How about I bet with you?" A voice came from the crowd, and everyone looked over. Suddenly, they saw a golden light and felt an extremely rich aura. Immediately, they felt as if they had seen a gold mine. Xia Wanjin. Xia Wanjin. In the Sky Academy, many people knew that he wasn't from the East continent. It was said that he was the son of a rich family in the Central continent. He was extremely rich, and the spirit veins were nothing in his hands. "I hate it. You have more money than me." Chu Yang spoke, and everyone was stunned again. Xia Wanjin was also stunned. "Look at you. Losing 10 spirit veins won't hurt you, but I'll be sad for a while if I lose." Illiterate people who don't even understand the value of gambling, go play in the mud. Chu Yang waved his hand impatiently at Xia Wanjin. Xia Wanjin stared blankly for a moment before nodding. "That makes sense. Wild dog, how about I bet with you?" Liu Yunpeng. As soon as he spoke, everyone exclaimed. Chu Yang finally understood why these 2 things didn't like him. They were probably unhappy that he had taken a fancy to Shangguanlan just now. "That's my fiancé. What the hell are you guys upset about?" Chu Yang raged. "I'm also richer than you," Liu Yunpeng said. 10 of my spirit veins are equal to 1 of yours. I'll bet 100 spiritual veins for 1 spiritual vein, and I'll let you bet 10 spiritual veins repeatedly." When Xia Wanjin spoke again, the crowd went into an uproar. What was a nouveau riche? What was a tycoon? What was a tycoon? Xia Jinwan was 1. Such a bet was equivalent to 1,000 spirit veins. A huge gamble. This was a huge gamble. Chapter 1200. Chu Yang was really angry. He thought to himself, "How dare you bully your grandpa Chu like this? I'll knock you out one day and rob you." At the same time, he was screaming in his heart, "Why don't I have more spiritual veins?" Chu Yang screamed in his heart for a while. Then, the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. He cupped his fists and said to the 2 of them, "You two, you are welcome to use money to kill me." Xia Wanjin was stunned again, and then he said with a smile, "That's a good idea. I think I can consider it." The parrot's eyes lit up completely, and it shouted in its heart, "Chu Hang is really generous, so generous." It screamed unconsciously, "Spiritual veins, Where are the spiritual veins? Suddenly, it rushed to the audience, crossed its wings, cupped its fists, and said to the audience with a smile, "Everyone, if any of you can lend me a spirit vein, this divine bird will lend one and return too." This damn bird. The people of the Sky Academy were all shocked by the parrot's weirdness. Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin despised Chu Yang just now, but the parrot was even more excessive. It wanted to gamble with the spiritual veins, even at the expense of usury. Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin instantly felt uncomfortable. They were attacked by a damn bird, or in other words, were despised by Chu Yang. "I've changed my mind now." Liu Yunpeng obviously thought that the parrot's action was inspired by Chu Yang. He said, "Wild dog, one of your spiritual veins is equal to 100 of mine." Boom. The crowd immediately burst into an uproar. If Chu Yang won, he would get 1,000 spiritual veins. "I've changed my mind, too." Xia Wanjin also said, "The rest is the same, but the spiritual veins are equal to 1,000, 10,000 spiritual veins. Are you crazy? Even if the big families in the East Continent put together all their spiritual veins and pawned all their spiritual veins, it would not be enough to compensate." The people of the Sky Academy were all stunned. #yuan #yuan. Chu Yang had already activated the 3-character scripture. The parrot was so anxious that it wanted to pluck out its feathers. It shrieked, "Everyone, borrow 1 and return 5. No one answered. The parrot was about to go crazy. 1 spirit vein could win 100 spirit veins, and it could even be repeated. Winning another 1,000 spirit veins would be a total of 1,100 spirit veins. Such a big pie had fallen from the sky. If it couldn't catch it, it would leave an eternal stain on its life. No matter how successful it was in the future, it was destined to be an incomparable failure. "Borrow 1 and return 10. I'll borrow 1 and return 50. Lend me 1 and return me 100. The parrot's eyes were red, but no one responded. It endured the pain in its heart and roared, "Borrow 1 and return 1,000. It was very tempting, but who would dare to borrow it? Didn't they see that Liu Yunpeng's face had completely darkened? Even Xia Wanjin's mouth was twitching. This was not a simple gamble, but a grudge between Chu Yang, Liu Yunpeng, and Xia Wanjin. Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin despised Chu Yang to the corner, while Chu Yang despised them with the help of the parrot. He was even worse than them. Especially the parrot, whose eyes were red with anxiety, was about to kneel down in front of everyone. For the two of them, it was simply too painful. Being rich is a big deal. Despise is the ancestor. Learn from them. The two of them clearly heard Chu Yang's silent sneer and ridicule. However, the two of them had no other moves. If they lost, they would be in deep pain. 1,000 spirit veins, 10,000 spirit veins was definitely not a small number. Even if they were willing to increase the ratio, it would be useless. They would not be able to look down on Chu Yang. Chapter 1201. The parrot's words were very vivid, and it even went so far as to demonstrate what it meant by a single cent stump to hero bird. "Little bitch, are you serious? Lend 1 and return 1,000. In the silence, Hao Haodong opened his mouth. "I have a spirit vein here. I also have a spirit vein." "Me too." Kui Xinhu and Oyu Lajeng also spoke. Their spirit veins were naturally given by Sima Jian. Flutter. When the parrot saw the 3 spirit veins, it was as if it had seen its parents. Its eyes completely lit up, and it immediately flew over and collected the 3 spirit veins. "Waha, finally, there are spirit veins. This divine bird is going to be rich." The parrot laughed strangely like a villain, and then poked Hao Haodong and the other two, "Because the 3 of you were too slow and almost affected this divine bird's plan of making a fortune, I will lend 1 and return 100. Waha, this divine bird is indeed a genius. This divine bird has finally caught a pie in the sky, and this divine bird has not left a permanent stain on this bird's life." Such a monologue in his heart made Liu Yunpeng's face turn green. Xia Wanjin's face also darkened. "What do you mean by pie in the sky? Do you think I am a complete fool?" Everyone present looked at the parrot with a strange gaze. Even Kui Xinhu and the other two cursed, "Damn bird, you don't keep your words." "Waha. Facing the strange gazes of the crowd, the parrot remained calm and composed. In fact, it seemed even more pleased with itself. It laughed strangely and said to Liu Yunpeng and Xie Wanjin, "Tycoons, do you still dare to take these 3 spirit veins?" "Humph, it's just 3 spirit veins." Liu Yunpeng was already flustered and exasperated, and he wanted to directly tear the parrot into pieces. However, to argue with such a lowly parrot, it was simply too shameful. Xie Wanjin couldn't laugh. He hadn't even started, but his face had already been slapped so hard. "I agree. Waraha." The parrot was completely relieved after hearing this, and laughed strangely. "Chu Hang, this divine bird has finally caught up." The parrot could simply anger Liu Yunpeng to death. "Everyone." Suddenly, Chu Yang cupped his fists and said to the crowd, "Everyone, if I borrow one, I will return 1,000. Who is willing to lend me a spirit vein?" Chu Yang felt that the parrot's idea was very good, and immediately copied it. In an instant, the whole place was silent. It was incomparably silent. Dead silence. They stared at Chu Yang with even more strange gazes. Shangguan Lan and Shangguan Mai both opened their mouths wide. They were also completely shocked by Chu Yang's actions. Because they were too surprised. Plop. Hong Neo was so shocked that she fell from Shangguan Mai's shoulder. Kaka. Liu Yunpeng clenched his teeth. Buzz buzz buzz. Xie Wanjin's mind was also buzzing, as if Chu Yang had struck him with a stick. Just now, he and Liu Yunpeng were too careless. Now that they were used by Chu Yang, they did not even have the strength to fight back. They could only be slaughtered, because the ratio was too high. It was like shooting oneself in the foot, it hurts. That was how Xie Wanjin felt now. That girl. No one made a sound. Chu Yang cupped his fists and avoided Shangguan Lan, saying, "When I look at you, I know that you are so charming that even the moon and flowers would be ashamed. When you look back, you will charm hundreds of people. When fairies see you, they will not have the courage to go out. When goddesses see you, they will want to commit suicide." He used endless adjectives to describe Shangguan Lan's beauty, which made everyone even more confused. Chapter 1202. In the end, Chu Yang said to Shangguan Lan with a smile, "Miss, can you lend me some spiritual veins?" Boom. The crowd was in an uproar. Chu Yang was really crazy. How could he do such a thing? Liu Yunpeng's face turned blue, and smoke came out of his 7 orifices. Xie Wanjin couldn't help but clench his teeth, making cracking sounds. The parrot was also stunned, completely stunned, thinking, not only can he make money, but he can also pick up girls, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Why didn't this divine bird think of it just now? No. The goddess spoke. The goddess actually spoke. The field was completely in an uproar. Wild Dog begged, and the goddess actually responded. Chu Yang covered his chest and pretended to vomit blood. "My heart is hurt." Shangguan Lan was completely speechless. If it weren't for Chu Yang's good performance when he first entered the Sky Academy and showed the courage and responsibility of a man, when she saw Chu Yang like this, there was only one answer: break off the engagement, must break off the engagement, must break off the engagement. "Wild Dog, are you done being funny?" Xiong Longxiang said, "I don't have time to laugh at a wild dog like you." Swish. He directly entered the battle-forbidden field. Haha. Chu Yang also walked into the field with a smile. "Wild Dog, I just said that I can pinch you to death with 1 finger. 1 finger?" Chu Yang smiled evilly. He took a step forward with a bang sound. The clothes on his body violently fluttered. His imposing aura soared to the sky in an instant. It seemed as if he had suddenly changed into another person. Bang, 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 bang. With his body as the center, the air began to explode, and the void began to tremble, rippling in circles. The void above his head suddenly turned dark, and the starry sky appeared. Stars jumped out, and the starlight fell down like flowing water, soft and dazzling, making him look like a celestial being descending to the mortal world, majestic and awe-inspiring. "You said you could crush me to death with a single finger. You dare to say such a thing? If we were in a different place, you would have to pay with your life." Chu Yang sneered, then said, "However, you're not much older than Xiao Chang'e, that little brat." Children's words carry no harm. I'll forgive your sins, but I'll use a finger to bully you. Don't cry. Ha. Xiong Longxiang was so angry that he laughed. You actually dare to call me a broken child, do you want to die? Hee. Chu Yang chuckled. The academy has a rule that says we can't kill children as we please. Otherwise, we'd be considered inhumane and heartless. They also said that if the children were too immature, they could teach them a lesson on behalf of their parents. Roar. The sound waves created ripples in the void, and the roars of dragons and elephants came out from the bear dragon elephant's body. The sound waves made many people's ears hurt. When the sound entered their ears, they felt as if there was a divine elephant raising its pillar-like elephant leg and stomping down. Their hearts were filled with fear and awe. Many people even screamed in fear. Xiong Longxiang's shocking power was obvious. The parrot's eyes bulged. Chu Hang won't lose, right? If he loses, this divine bird will owe him 300 spirit veins, and turn from a divine bird to a laughingstock bird. Kui Xin Hu, Hao Dong, and Oyu Lajeng had completely changed their expressions at this time. The aura that burst out from the bear dragon elephant made their hearts tremble. They felt that they were like lambs in front of him, and they couldn't help but feel great fear in their hearts. Chapter 1203. That's right. Xiong Longxiang is indeed a member of the Cosmos Party. He's amazing. When Xiong Longxiang released his aura, Sage Nirvana and the other two couldn't help but nod their heads. Rumble. Chu Yang pointed his index finger and the spiritual chi condensed into a tiny star. Suddenly, it stretched and turned into a star spear. The starlight was like a tide and the surging spiritual chi was like the tide of the universe. After he had obtained Bei Chunxing's star martial soul, he had made rapid progress. Every day, his understanding of the star martial soul would become deeper. The star spear pierced out at lightning speed and tore the sky apart. The dazzling starlight affected people's vision. There were thousands of changes and illusions. As the spear pierced down, the surroundings seemed to have been torn apart. He took the initiative to attack Xiong Longxiang and pointed the spear at his throat. What? Xiong Longxiang's keen divine sense sensed danger. When the starlight shone on his skin, a layer of goosebumps appeared. In an instant, his pupils contracted. He had never expected that Chu Yang, a small wild dog, would have such powerful means. Wild dog, you are really presumptuous. You dare to use a finger to deal with me. Xiong Longxiang immediately stretched out a finger. It shone with a dignified Buddhist light and the roar of a huge elephant came out from his finger. His finger was like a divine elephant trampling on the ground. It hit the tip of the star spear. This finger seemed to encompass the entire universe. The moment this finger appeared, the surrounding heaven and earth essence chi was completely devoured, leaving not a single drop behind. A small black hole appeared on the tip of Xiong Longxiang's finger. It was like a huge elephant trampling on the void. Starry sky palm, stars fall. Chu Yang exerted his strength again. Endless spiritual chi poured into the star spear. At this moment, he seemed to have turned into the ruler of the starry sky. Endless light burst out from his body. He stepped on the 9 heavens and 10 earths and grasped the endless starry sky. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void shook and the earth trembled. The starry sky appeared above Chu Yang's head. Countless suns, moons, and stars swayed. The crowd was affected and the spiritual chi in their bodies swayed. Bang! The star spear collided with Xiong Longxiang's finger without any fancy moves. In an instant, Xiong Longxiang's entire body shook violently. He wanted to activate his power to attack, but at the moment of contact, he found that a supreme power that was even more shocking than his own came crashing down. It felt as if a star in the starry sky had smashed down on a giant elephant. Damn it! The wild dog actually has the star martial spirit. Xiong Longxiang quickly changed his move. He retracted his finger and swung his arm out like an elephant's trunk. It was as if a god was going to pluck the stars and grab the moon. An even more dazzling light of Buddha shone from his palm again, as if a Buddha had appeared during a natural disaster and caught the falling stars. The light of Buddha shone upon all living beings, giving them hope and saving them. Pa! Xiong Longxiang had just grabbed the star spear when Chu Yang pointed his finger again. 7 stars appeared and connected into a line. Then, an even more astonishing star spear was formed and pierced towards Xiong Longxiang. Xiong Longxiang's expression changed completely. His dragon-elephant martial spirit was extremely powerful, but the stars were too heavy. The strength of the dragon-elephant martial spirit paled in comparison. With a thought, a giant axe suddenly flew out from his space ring. He grabbed it and swung it at the star spear. Chapter 1204. Little brat, didn't you say you would crush me with one finger? Now you not only use one hand, but also take out your weapon, Chu Yang sneered. However, as an adult, I'm prepared for a little brat going back on his word. Xiong Longxiang's face and ears were flushed red. He was extremely ashamed and had lost all face. Therefore, he suddenly increased the strength of his axe by 10%. Roar. Chu Yang was not afraid at all. Under his will, the Spear of Stars let out a ferocious roar. The power of Gungjin and the power of blood and evil burst out, completely merging with the light of the stars. White Tiger, one of the 4 symbols. The star spear not only contained the profound of the star martial soul, but also the white tiger martial soul. The power of the white tiger burst out and the long spear trembled. The power of Gungjin and the power of slaughter was stimulated on the long spear. The long spear and the axe collided, as if 2 armies were fighting. Suddenly, a large army rushed out and changed the situation in an instant. Buzz! The axe was directly blown away, and the star spear stabbed Xiong Longxiang directly. Xiong Longxiang's entire palm exploded and was dripping with blood. The sleeve of his arm was completely shattered and his bones were broken into many pieces. Xiong Longxiang is defeated. He barely resisted the first move, but he could barely resist the second move. One of his arms was destroyed. Is he really Wild Dog? He not only resisted Xiong Longxiang, but also injured him severely. Is Wild Dog really invincible in the same realm? Oh my God, am I dreaming? When the experts of the Sky Academy saw this scene, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin's expressions changed instantly. They thought that Xiong Longxiang would definitely win. If he lost, not only would he lose face, but he would also lose many spiritual veins. Roar. A dragon's roar came from Xiong Longxiang's body. The dragon-elephant martial soul changed from the giant elephant to the divine dragon. At this time, he was furious. Originally, he could have squashed the wild dog to death with a finger, but now, not only did he not fulfill his promise, his arm was crippled by the other party. Humiliation, a great humiliation. Kill. His body suddenly grew taller, and his spirit aura transformed into a huge dragon that coiled around his body. Then, he took out a spear and thrust it forward. The spear had a golden dragon coiling around it. It emitted a dazzling golden light as it met the Spear of Stars in a mysterious trajectory. Bang bang bang! The spear in Xiong Longxiang's hand was a physical weapon, but Chu Yang's Spear of Stars was a transformation of spirit qi. However, when the two came into contact, Xiong Longxiang's spear broke into pieces and was destroyed. Kai. Although the radiance of the Spear of Stars had dimmed and cracks had appeared on it, it still managed to hold on. The tip of the spear pierced an inch deep into the bear dragon elephant's throat, causing blood to gush out. Xiong Longxiang was defeated. He had been completely defeated. He had a spear pointed at his throat, and his life was in the hands of another. All the members of the Sky Academy were petrified and stared blankly at this scene. The exchange between the two was extremely fast, but it was also extremely dangerous. However, what was even more shocking was that Chu Yang was actually able to control himself so well in such a dangerous exchange. He still had strength to spare. Little brat, call me dad, and I'll spare your life. Chu Yang smiled evilly and mockingly. Wild dog, don't even think about it. Bang! Chu Yang kicked Xiong Longxiang away and threw the Spear of Stars in his hand. It pierced Xiong Longxiang's chest and nailed him to the ground. Buzz! 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 The spear trembled and then burst into pieces. A big bloody hole appeared in Xiong Longxiang's chest, and he screamed. Unfortunately, Chu Yang could not kill him. Hurry up, and save him. Chapter 1205. Everyone was speechless. Xiong Longxiang couldn't even withstand a single blow from Chu Yang. The gap was so huge. Just as Chu Yang said, Xiong Longxiang wasn't much different from Xiao Chang'e. He could deal with him with just one finger. Maybe, this wild dog is really invincible in the same realm. Although many people didn't want to believe it, the reality seemed to be so. Nirvana Sage, Soul Fusion Sage, and Fa Xiong Sage looked extremely serious. This Chu Yang was far more amazing than they had imagined. But until now, they still couldn't confirm whether Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002 or not. They even felt that Chu Yang was leading them to believe that he was Eastern Wilderness 002. The Star Martial Soul could be linked. In the Seven Wheels Demon Realm, Bei Chunqing died under his own Star Lord Seven Kneels, and the one who performed it was Eastern Wilderness 002. From this point of view, Eastern Wilderness 002 definitely mastered the secret technique of Star Palace. Chu Yang had just defeated Xiong Longxiang, and seemed to have deliberately shown that he was also proficient in the secret technique of Star Palace. However, there was more than one person who mastered the secret technique of Star Palace. He might not necessarily be Eastern Wilderness 002. For example, this could also be Bei Chunqing. I'm arrogant, so I'm here. Chu Yang shook his head confidently, and narcissistically blew up the hair on his forehead. He said to everyone, you were amazed by me just now, right? Are you convinced by my omnipotence? Hurry up and give me a round of applause. No one responded. Chu Yang was arrogant. What could they say now? The wild dog was strong. Miss. Chu Yang teased Shangguan Lan again, and said with an evil smile, was I handsome just now? I think I'm very handsome. Shangguan Lan didn't know why, but she suddenly had the urge to smash Chu Yang's smiling face. Chu Yang knew it was her, but he still teased her. And you guys. Chu Yang then said to everyone, I say, if someone had lent me a spirit vein just now, wouldn't they be rich now? Little scum is right. You guys don't even know how to pick up the meat pie that fell from the sky. Liu Yunpeng was so angry that his whole body trembled. Xie Wanjin had completely lost his composure, the veins on his face throbbing. Tempage, is your expression ugly now? Chu Yang sneered in his heart. Then, he smiled and extended his hand to the two. You two only have a total of 13 spirit veins. In total, this sharp-eared brother has a total of 1,300 spirit veins. He then turned to Xie Wanjin and said, Brother, I don't have many. I only have 13,000 spirit veins. 13,000 spirit veins. When Xie Wanjin heard this, his face immediately turned red from the slap. This was definitely not a small number for him. Moreover, there were 13,000 spirit veins. Where would he find them in such a short time? Waha! When the parrot heard this, it immediately laughed strangely. I'm rich, I'm rich. This divine bird is rich, haha. The parrot laughed so hard that it was rolling on the ground. It laughed so hard that it was convulsing. Then, it began to mock everyone present. You idiots. You don't even know how to pick up the meat pie that fell from the sky. I don't even know what to say to you. Haven't you heard of the saying, heaven gives you a gift and you will be punished for it? You are all guilty. What did it mean by meat pie that fell from the sky? In the eyes of Liu Yunpeng and Xie Wanjin, the parrot was even more detestable than Chu Yang. Their faces were ashen, and they were so angry that their bodies trembled. They wanted nothing more than to kill this person and the bird immediately to vent their anger. You two, please pay the bill. When Chu Yang extended his hand, the two were ashamed and resentful. They wanted nothing more than to find a hole in the ground and hide in it. How could they make such a fool of themselves in front of so many people? I'll give it to you in a few days. Xie Wanjin didn't know how he could say such a thing. You don't have money. Bet my ass. The parrot was furious. It opened its mouth and scolded, you don't have any ability. You just came out to show off. Now you're satisfied. You're being humiliated very rhythmically. At this time, the two's eyes were almost spitting fire. They glared at the parrot. They wanted nothing more than to kill this damned bird, pluck out its feathers, cut open its belly, and barbecue it. I allow you to buy on credit, and I also allow you to go back on your word. Chapter 1206. It was better to catch up with the enemy bravely than to learn from the overlord. Chu Yang had won 2 rounds in a row. Now that he was in a good mood, he was as aggressive as a tiger. The people of the Sky Academy looked terrible. They were really being ridden by a wild dog in the eastern wilderness, but they could do nothing but watch him act presumptuously. The Nirvana Sage, the Fa Xiong Sage, and the Soul-Merging Sage were the most upset. They were powerful figures in the Sky Academy and could do whatever they wanted. The students of the Sky Academy were not respectful to them, but now they were provoked by a wild dog. They were angry but powerless. If we fight in the same realm, I may be able to compete with Xiong Longxiang with my combat experience, vision, and comprehension of martial arts at a high realm. But I'm afraid I'm definitely not a match for this wild dog. The Soul-Merging Sage and the other 2 looked at each other silently and thought, this wild dog is almost as strong as those dormant geniuses of the Sky Academy. If I were him, I'm afraid I would be humiliated by him. Waha! The parrot laughed strangely and arrogantly, as if it was not Chu Yang who had won, but it. It shouted at the people of the Sky Academy, guys, didn't you say that the bear was very good? And you laughed so happily. Why are you mute now? Especially the 2 of you. The parrot looked at Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin with a sneer and said, you've really vividly explained what it means to be a fool with a lot of money. Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin's faces were instantly peeled off. Their faces were so red that they looked like they were bleeding. It was as if they were already dripping with blood. The 2 of them flew into a rage out of humiliation, but they could not say a word because they were called a fool with a lot of money. They had indeed misjudged. Chu Yang's cultivation was far beyond their imagination. Xiong Longxiang's cultivation was indeed ridiculously strong, and his martial arts foundation was incomparably solid and deep. Ordinary people would not be able to catch up to him, which was why they had made such a bet. The 2 of them didn't speak, and the parrot became even more arrogant. My lord, you are so handsome and have a good life. You really deserve to be the stallion of the Sky Academy. You are so arrogant and domineering. I say, the 3 of you, my lord is challenging you. Do you dare to accept? Bastard bird, what kind of bullshit stallion is this? Kui Xinhu and the other 2 didn't like to hear that. Bullshit, stop tarnishing the reputation of the eastern wilderness. The parrot was furious. What do you 3 know? My master is invincible and as lonely as the snow. All the females in the world should be the object of my master's affection. Then, he will give birth to a litter of little masters and completely revitalize the eastern wilderness. It added, I say, you 3 should read more books. You don't even know the most basic thing about carrying on the family line. Kui Xinhu and the other 2 were speechless. This bullshit bird was extremely shameless. However, they couldn't refute it as it made sense. When Chu Yang saw that Shangguan Lan was glaring at the parrot, he couldn't help but mutter in his heart. My fiancé is jealous. I'm afraid that she is a super jealous lover. She doesn't even know what the 3 obedience and 4 virtues are. This is bad. Wild Dog's spiritual energy has been refined to the level of the soul amalgamation realm. Moreover, his cultivation is extremely profound. Although he is only at spirit stage level 8, he is definitely not inferior to the soul amalgamation realm. He can kill people who are of a higher realm than him easily. Therefore, it would be extremely difficult to defeat him in the same realm. The Nirvana Sage secretly transmitted a message to the Fa Xiong Sage and the Soul Amalgamation Sage. As for the Avilders of the Sky Academy, such as Liu Yunpeng and Xia Jinwan, they are all as cunning as ghosts. If they don't know the details of Wild Dog, they will definitely not make a move. I'm afraid that we can only fight. Chapter 1207. That's right. The Soul Fusion Sage agreed, however, we have to be careful. If we can't defeat him, we have to admit defeat immediately. We don't want to be humiliated by the Wild Dog. Even if we can't defeat him in the same realm, we still have time to admit defeat. The Nirvana sage sneered, "This wild dog thinks that he has succeeded. However, he doesn't know that this will give us the opportunity to understand his background. Once he is exposed, Liu Yunpeng and the others will definitely not let him go." After a pause, he continued, "The three of us are already in the Nirvana realm. After our physical bodies have undergone Nirvana, they are extremely powerful. Even under the suppression of our realms, this advantage will still be preserved. My physical body is definitely much stronger than the wild dog's. If I use brute force to break through all techniques, I might be able to defeat him." When the Fa Xiong sage and the Soul Fusion sage heard this, they nodded inwardly. Using brute force to break through techniques was indeed a way to win. "Then I'll test the wild dog's mental cultivation," the Fa Xiong sage said. "Under the suppression of the battle forbidden area, even if my cultivation is suppressed to the spirit realm, I can still use my golden crow celestial body. I'll test how strong his 7 spirits are and see how strong they are." The Soul Fusion sage said, "My comprehension of the heavens and earth is much higher than the wild dog's. I can use my domain to crush him." "Okay, then I'll start." After the Nirvana sage finished his discussion, he immediately said to Chu Yang, "Since you want to challenge us, then I'll give it a try." He strode out and said in a deep voice, "Since you want to challenge us, the older generation, I can only thicken my face and fight against you. Chu Yang, I was a physique cultivator in my early years. I cultivated the Buddhist golden arhat body. When my physical body was at the 1st level of the spirit realm, I was able to kill someone at the 5th level of the spirit realm. You have to be careful. A physique cultivator that could kill someone who was 4 realms higher. Interesting." Chu Yang smiled and said, "Old mister, please." The rebirth sage roared furiously as strands of golden light erupted from his body. His entire body seemed as if it was cast from gold, and waves of thunderous rumbling resounded from within his body. At the same time, his body grew taller and taller, and in the blink of an eye, he was over 10 m tall. His muscles bulged up while the vital energy and blood he emanated shot into the sky like a dragon, and his entire body was suffused with an extremely terrifying force. He turned into a small giant and looked down at Chu Yang from above. Dong. Sage Nirvana bent his knees and squatted down before leaping up, causing the ground beneath his feet to instantly shatter and collapse to form a large pit that was almost 100 meters in diameter, and then he attacked Chu Yang with the force of Mount Tai. Although he was sealed, he had passed through the Nirvana tribulation. His physical strength had reached a terrifying level of 9,000 dragon power. With such strength, he was able to kill a spirit stage 9th stage martial artist, causing the air to explode. With such strength, even a spirit stage 9th stage powerhouse wouldn't dare to get close to him. Otherwise, they would be torn apart by him with a single punch. Chu Yang raised his head and smiled at Sage Nirvana, revealing his 8 white teeth. Without dodging, he directly faced Sage Nirvana head-on. Boom! When the 2 palms collided, Sage Nirvana was immediately sent flying by a powerful force. It was as if he was hit by an invisible hammer. He let out a miserable shriek and fell from the sky. He was horrified and wanted to admit defeat, but it was too late. Suddenly, he couldn't help but turn upside down in the air. His head was facing down, and his feet were facing up. Chu Yang's hand slammed down and nailed him into the ground like a sledgehammer. Chapter 1208. Rumble. The ground exploded as the Nirvana sage rushed out. His face was flushed red as he gritted his teeth. Chu Yang placed his hands behind his back and laughed. "Old mister, you want to compete with me in terms of physical strength? You're courting death. I'm a physique cultivator, and I'm much more amazing than you." Everyone from the Sky Academy looked at each other and revealed a dignified expression. Although Chu Yang's attack was fast, they all saw it clearly. The wild dog had indeed used pure strength to slap the Nirvana sage into the ground. What amazing strength! Even those at the 9th level of the spirit stage wouldn't dare to face the power that the Nirvana sage had just unleashed. "Old mister, do you want to continue?" Chu Yang smiled at the Nirvana sage. The Nirvana sage almost fainted from anger. He was humiliated in front of so many students from the Sky Academy. He would probably become a joke. "I admit defeat." The Nirvana sage bit out word by word. However, this was the only thing he could do. After all, he didn't even have time to admit defeat. No matter how good his previous plan was, it was useless. This wild dog's cultivation and physical strength are already so amazing. I don't believe that his mental power cultivation is also so high. The Fa Seong sage was filled with murderous intent as he stepped out. There was already a Nirvana sage before him. If he lost, he wouldn't be as humiliated as the Nirvana sage. Such a thought made him feel relaxed. Chu Yang, I see that you're amazing. I also want to try my hand. He didn't refuse anyone. Chu Yang laughed, old mister, please. The Fa Seong sage was afraid of Chu Yang's powerful physical body and stood far away. A buzzing sound came from between his eyebrows as mental power surged out. With a bang, it was as if the entire world had been ignited. Amidst the surging flames, a huge sun appeared and a three-legged golden crow flew out. Mental power was originally invisible, but it actually appeared at this moment. It could be seen how powerful it was. This was the power of the Fa Seong formed by mental power. How could a spirit stage withstand such a technique? Just as the golden crow was about to fly into Chu Yang's spiritual world, the space between Chu Yang's eyebrows suddenly lit up. A celestial figure appeared and formed a seal with both hands. Celestial being, heaven patching seal. In an instant, there seemed to be a mountain or a heavenly barrier in front of Chu Yang. The golden crow flew straight towards him at an extremely fast speed. It was like a stupid bird bumping into a mountain. With a bang, it slid down all the way. The Transcendent Sage was stunned. He was even more ridiculous than the Nirvana Sage. The Celestial on Chu Yang's forehead raised his hand and sucked the golden crow into his palm. Then it entered Chu Yang's spiritual world and disappeared. You. The Dharma Sage's face was burning red. Then, he roared, you want to refine my spiritual power? You're delusional. In his fury, he thought about Chu Yang's stupidity and couldn't help but completely relax. His Nirvana stage mental energy had gone through Nirvana, so it was extremely tough. Although it had been greatly weakened due to the suppression, how could Chu Yang, who was only at the spirit stage, refine it? The wild dog's action was simply like putting a divine sword into a cloth bag. His simply courting death. The Transcendence Sage immediately laughed. The Nirvana Sage and the Soul Merging Sage also laughed. They were waiting to see Chu Yang's mental energy suffer a heavy blow. However, Chu Yang was still safe and sound even after half a day had passed. This caused the smiles on the three people's faces to slowly solidify. Everyone could clearly see that Chu Yang's forehead had lit up. The three-legged golden crow that the Transcendent Sage had transformed into was now like a bird being barbecued. Chapter 1209. When the Fa Seong Sage recalled his previous words, he was so embarrassed that he almost fainted. Chu Yang was an array master, a level 6 array master. His mental strength was already extremely powerful. Coupled with his powerful martial soul, his mental strength was even more amazing. A soul fusion realm expert couldn't compare to him at all. If it was a Nirvana realm expert, he naturally wouldn't dare to take the golden crow into his spiritual world. However, the golden crow that was suppressed to the spirit realm was nothing to him. I admit defeat. The Fa Seong Sage didn't wait for Chu Yang to ask and directly admitted defeat. When Chu Yang opened his mouth and provoked him again, he would be even more embarrassed and unable to show his face. His physical body is already so heaven-defying. It's comparable to a physique cultivator at the 9th level of the spirit realm. Yet, he couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. How can his mental strength be so terrifying? He's invincible in the same realm. Even if he's not invincible, he's not far from it. Is our Sky Academy really going to be defeated by a wild dog? Everyone in the Sky Academy felt extremely uncomfortable. They looked at Chu Yang in the field and couldn't say a word. Old mister, do you want to give it a try? Chu Yang grinned and asked the Soul Melting Sage. Now, the Soul Fusion Sage was only left to be humiliated by Chu Yang. The Soul Fusion Sage was extremely nervous. Both the Nirvana Realm Expert and the Fa Seong Sage had lost miserably. It could be said that they couldn't protect their integrity. If he lost, wouldn't he end up like them? I should be able to admit defeat if I use my domain to fight against him. He pondered for a while. Facing Chu Yang's provocation, he stepped into the field and said, "I want to see your means. Please." Chu Yang stretched out his hand again. "Okay, let me see how well you've cultivated your 7 souls." Buzz. The Soul Fusion Sage released his domain. A thick light shield rolled towards Chu Yang like a rolling boulder. Chu Yang smiled faintly. His body was as straight as a spear that was nailed to the ground. When the Soul Fusion Sage's domain was about to reach him, he suddenly released his own domain. Rumble. Chu Yang's domain was extremely shocking. As soon as it appeared, the soul-merging sage's domain became as weak as a balloon. Meanwhile, his domain was like a mountain pushed by a giant, crushing everything in its path. Bang bang bang. The merged soul sage domain directly exploded without any suspense. I admit, before he could finish his sentence, the domain came crashing down on him, crushing him into the ground. A human-shaped mark could be clearly seen on the ground. It was too late to admit defeat. Chu Yang retracted his domain and the ground exploded. Sage-merged soul charged out and pointed at Chu Yang before fainting from anger. It was embarrassing, even more embarrassing than the Nirvana sage. In a clash of domains, he was like a bug being crushed by a carriage. This scene caused Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin's expressions to darken. The Nirvana sage and the Dharma aspect sage looked at the Soul Fusion sage who had fainted from anger. Apart from feeling ashamed, they were also very shocked. They had calculated everything very well. Logically speaking, there should be no problem, but they found it hard to accept such an outcome. The people of the Sky Academy were extremely indignant and unwilling to accept such an outcome. However, no one was confident that they could defeat Chu Yang in the same realm. If they went up, they would only be humiliated and end up like the Nirvana sage, the Dharma aspect sage, and the Soul Fusion sage. I won't do it when the flowers bloom, but I'll be scared to death when I do. If I want to fight with West Wind, I'll be wearing golden armor. Chu Yang was conceited and magnanimous, as if he was invincible in the world. He said to everyone with a trace of mockery, "Everyone, who still wants to fight with me? Is there no one else? Do you really want me to fight with West Wind?" Chapter 12:10. What is arrogance? This is arrogance. What is mockery? This is the biggest mockery. What is provocation? This is the biggest provocation. Almost everyone in the Sky Academy was gnashing their teeth. They couldn't wait to go up and tear Chu Yang into pieces. Not only did Chu Yang humiliate them, but he also wanted to play with them to the extreme. He didn't even give them a piece of cloth to cover up their shame. He stripped them naked and forced them into a corner. Chu Yang naturally knew what he was doing. In the face of the discrimination of the East Continent and the Eastern Wilderness, he was going to break it little by little and trample on the dignity and pride of the East Continent. The Sky Academy was his next target, and this was just the beginning. When his strength reached a certain level, he would trample the entire East Continent under his feet. When all the things he had done were displayed in front of the East Continent would no longer have the right to be arrogant in front of the East Continent. This would naturally generate hatred, but it was unavoidable. It was simply wishful thinking to expect the enemy to not be hostile to him. Chu Yang certainly knew that this method was not clever, but it was the most in line with his personality. As far as he was concerned, the method that he felt was the best and most appropriate method was the best and most appropriate method. After all, he didn't want to carry the burden of the Eastern Wilderness on his back all the time. Therefore, he wanted to be the bad guy first. He would take the lead and leave the rest for others. With the foundation laid by him, it should be much easier for the others in the Eastern Wilderness to follow up. This was not the first time that Kui Xinhu, Oyu Lajing, and Hao Haodong had seen Chu Yang bully the people of the East Continent. Just seeing his mocking smile, his somewhat thin figure, his domineering appearance, they were still incomparably excited and incomparably emotional. This was the peerless hero of the Eastern Wilderness. He alone suppressed millions of people in the Eastern Continent, laughing and cursing without restraint. He was the only one who reigned supreme and looked down on everyone in the Eastern continent. He showed them what contempt was. Of all the people from the Eastern wilderness, the parrot was probably the only one who was unhappy. Chu Hang really is an unprecedented son of a bitch. He's stolen all the glory of the world, but this divine bird is dull and lackluster. Not a single person is looking askance at this bird. Wild dog, do you really think that you are invincible in the same realm? What a joke. A cold voice sounded. Then, the crowd saw Liu Yunpeng walking out of the crowd. His gaze was like a spear as he stared at Chu Yang and sneered, "Previously, I just couldn't be bothered with an idiot like you. But now, I really can't stand watching you anymore. Great. Someone from our Sky Academy has finally made a name for himself. There are countless heroes in the Sky Academy. It's just that they don't want to show off. That's why this wild dog has been so arrogant for so long. I heard that Liu Yunpeng is not only a half-human half-demon, but he is also an ultimate state expert. He has reached the pinnacle of the primitive martial realm, Chi Soul realm, and ascending soul realm. I think it's the same for the soul reincarnation realm and spirit realm. Wild dog is dead this time." Shangguan Lan's expression couldn't help but become solemn. She whispered, "I'm afraid that Brother Goat might be in trouble this time." Liu Yunpeng had been sticking to her all this time. How could she not know about Liu Yunpeng? Liu Yunpeng was not only an ultimate state expert, but he also had the blood of the demon clan. He was also a descendant of a demon saint and had mastered the demon saint's supreme secret technique. She had also heard that the demon saint was very fond of Liu Yunpeng and had specially given him a lethal weapon. While tempering himself, he also used it to protect himself. Chapter 12:11. When Chu Yang heard this, he looked at Liu Yunpeng and suddenly smiled strangely. He stretched out his hand and said, "Pay back the money." Liu Yunpeng instantly froze on the spot. His face was completely frozen. All his expressions were completely frozen at this moment. Everyone couldn't help but be stunned. No one expected Chu Yang to say such a thing. However, this was Liu Yunpeng's humiliation and joke. Fart. After Shangguan Lan's small mouth opened slightly, she suddenly laughed out loud. She was also very surprised. Based on her understanding of Liu Yunpeng, this sentence was probably worse than killing him. Fortunately, I was one step slower. Xie Wanjin was sweating. He also wanted to make a move just now. At this time, when he saw Liu Yunpeng frozen on the spot and embarrassed look, he secretly rejoiced in his heart. If this sentence hit Xie Wanjin in the face, he would probably want to die. He, Xie Wanjin, actually owed someone money. It's just 1,000 spirit veins. Of course, I'll give it to you. Such a humiliation made Liu Yunpeng lose his spirit. All his arrogance was gone. He couldn't be fierce or arrogant at all. Chu Yang said disdainfully, "A guy who owes money still has the face to yell at his creditor. Are you crazy?" Liu Yunpeng was almost fuming. Chu Yang's mouth was too poisonous. Chu Yang was not afraid at all. He sneered, "You can't even pay back the money. What right do you have to provoke me? Besides, I'm also doing this for your own good. In my heart, Uncle Chu has the upper hand. I can't do such an inhumane thing as beating up a debtor. Do you think you have the ability?" Liu Yunpeng's god of 3 corpses was furious. "Whether I have the ability or not, this is still very far away for you." Chu Yang smiled evilly. "The first thing you have to do now is pay back the money. If you can't do this, you're worse than a dog's fart." Money. When these words entered his ears, Liu Yunpeng felt as if he had suffered a heavy blow. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. This was his weakness, and even more so, his humiliation. He gritted his teeth and said, "So you don't dare? You don't understand human language?" Chu Yang glanced at Liu Yunpeng. "Or should I say it more clearly and tell you what kind of situation you are in now?" He raised his hand and pointed directly at Liu Yunpeng's nose. "Owing money shows that you're incompetent. Is that straightforward enough? Are you saying that I'm useless?" Liu Yunpeng was so angry that he almost went berserk. His body trembled at a high frequency. He gritted his teeth and said, Then I'd like to see what you're capable of. Pa. Chu Yang waved his hand and stretched out his hand again. Return the money. Money, it's money again, and they're talking about money again. Liu Yunpeng felt dizzy. He was almost humiliated to death, but he wasn't angered to death. Aren't you very capable? Chu Yang looked at Liu Yunpeng and said with a smile, then return the money? A penny stumped a hero. What a painful realization. Liu Yunpeng was heartbroken. As for Xie Wanjin, when he looked at Liu Yunpeng's embarrassed look, he couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. If he were Liu Yunpeng, he didn't know what would happen to him, but he would definitely be more miserable than Liu Yunpeng. Waraha. At this time, the parrot laughed out loud. This divine bird has seen a strange thing today. You are so poor that you can't even eat your fill. But you still have time to play tough. Excuse me, is it okay for you to do this? Have you asked your 5 viscera temples? Young man. It then said to Liu Yunpeng earnestly, as a person who has been through this divine bird advises you to solve the problem of food and clothing first before showing off. This way, even if you're called incompetent, you'll have the strength to refute. Damn bird. Chapter 12:12. Clap. The parrot stretched out its wings, just like Chu Yang stretching out his hand, and said in a crisp voice, pay back the money. Liu Yunpeng felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His body shook violently, and he almost fell to the ground. This bitch bird was also his creditor. Liu Yunpeng, the people of the Sky Academy, had just seen Liu Yunpeng as if they had seen their savior, and now they were completely dumbfounded when they saw him being hit hard again and again. This was more miserable and humiliating than being defeated by Wild Dog. When he opened his mouth and spat out 2 words, he would make you suffer a fate worse than death. Ha ha. The parrot continued, I'm talking to you out of kindness, and I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. I didn't expect you to be so incorrigible. How dare you talk back to me with vicious words? Alas, what's wrong with young people nowadays, bitch? Chu Yang suddenly interrupted, who doesn't have a difficult time? Why are you so stubborn? Will you only be satisfied when you force him to death? Was it the bitch bird that forced him to his death, or was it the bastard that forced him to his death? The people of the Sky Academy almost cursed in their hearts. Seeing this scene, Xie Wanjin unconsciously felt a chill on his back and broke out in a cold sweat. Chu Yang was simply a devil to him now. Fart. Shangguanlan didn't know why, but when she saw Chu Yang's mischievous look and listened to his tone, she couldn't help but laugh, and this time her voice was louder. Immediately, Liu Yunpeng's mind buzzed. Shangguanlan. He actually made a fool of himself in front of the person he liked. At this moment, he didn't want to live anymore. His face was burning as if it was on fire. Young man, don't be discouraged. The parrot sighed and said, my master is right just now. Who doesn't have a difficult time? I feel it personally. For example, just now, this divine bird was so anxious and angry. I was begging my grandparents and I almost knelt down. But the world is so cold that no one can help me. Crack. Shame turned into incomparable rage and resentment. Liu Yunpeng gritted his teeth. You look so pitiful. As soon as the parrot finished speaking, it laughed coldly in its heart. Motherfucker, you still dare to throw a tantrum? If you don't act like a good grandchild, then this divine bird will kill you. It continued, look at how pitiful you are. You owe me 300 spirit veins. This divine bird will give you 1 less. When the time comes, you only need to give me 299 spirit veins. Humiliation after humiliation, but it wasn't over yet. The parrot wouldn't give up until Liu Yunpeng didn't want to live anymore. Besides, if you want to fight with my master, it's not like there's no other way. Why don't you borrow from everyone here? You're so pitiful. No matter how cold the world is, I feel that there are still kind-hearted people like me. You kind-hearted bastard. #yuan %% yuan. The people of the Sky Academy were already cursing in their hearts. The man and the bird could simply talk Liu Yunpeng to death. After this incident, not only the Sky Academy, but even the entire East Continent was even more disgraced. Swoosh. Liu Yunpeng couldn't stay here for half a second. With a swoosh, He rushed out quickly and disappeared in an instant. But in a short time, his furious roar resounded, 1,300 spirit veins. Get them for me immediately. Immediately, the roar was so loud that everyone present seemed to see Liu Yunpeng's ferocious appearance when he went crazy. They could empathize with him and knew what kind of mood Liu Yunpeng was in now and what kind of humiliation he had just suffered. Arrogant people, especially people like Liu Yunpeng, who thought highly of themselves, would find it even harder to accept what had just happened than digging out their ancestors. Of course, for those who humiliated them, they would definitely fight to the death without any room for negotiation. Chu Yang didn't care. He had already prepared himself mentally for this. At this time, his eyes had already fallen on Shangguan Lan. He said to himself, I haven't seen you for so many years. I wonder what you've become now. Of course, he wanted to know what kind of character Shangguan Lan was now. After all, she was his fiancée, maybe the one who would spend the rest of his life with him. Why don't I have a try now? Anyway, I've already gone crazy today. It shouldn't be a problem to go crazy again. Chapter 12-13. Miss, I often see you in my dreams. Chu Yang just thought about it in his mind and spoke directly. It was understandable that he didn't greet her when he knew her the first time, but he had to greet her when he saw her for the second time. How could he not flirt with his sister when he saw her twice? He wanted to greet her directly, but maybe Shangguan Lan was not just worried about him. She had brought him a lot of trouble, and there might be other reasons. For example, she might get into trouble after he announced that she was his fiancée. Therefore, Chu Yang restrained himself. After so many years, I finally don't have to see you in my dreams. How have you been all these years? He suddenly spoke. In an instant, countless eyes stared at him like wolves and tigers, and each of them seemed to want to tear him apart immediately. Xie Wanjin's pupils shrank. Do they know each other? Thinking of what had just happened, Xie Wanjin narrowed his eyes. I'm afraid so. As for Shangguan Lan, when she heard Chu Yang's greeting, her soft heart was touched, and she almost burst into tears, but it was only for a moment. I've been good all these years. After that, Chu Yang laughed. Now you're even better, because I'm very sure now that you're the one who wants to have a nest of children with me. Shangguan Lan blushed instantly. She was thin-skinned, but she couldn't stand such words. Xie Wanjin's eyes suddenly emitted a soul-stirring light, as though someone had touched his most treasured treasure. Wild dog, how dare you? Wild dog, Miss Shangguan is not someone you can touch. Take a piss and look at your own virtue first. A toad wants to eat swan meat. Wild dog, stop dreaming. The people of the Sky Academy suddenly burst out violently as if their parents had been killed. They hurled vicious words at Chu Yang, wanting to kill him immediately and let him know that he was wrong. Chu Yang looked calm. He had even humiliated the Nirvana Sage, the Dharma Sage, and the Soul-Merging Sage of the Sky Academy. How could he care about them? If that didn't work, they could just directly open the seal of the passageway and cause a huge ruckus. Who was afraid of who? Over the years, I've imagined meeting you again many times. Chu Yang's words touched Shangguan Lan's heart again. She murmured in her heart, Brother Yang, I often imagine what you will look like when I see you again. At that time, I thought about it. Perhaps when I see you again, I won't know what to say, so I made a poem. I want to read it to you when I see you again. Shangguan Lan looked forward to it. At this time, in her perception, there seemed to be no one else. In her eyes, there was only Chu Yang, and only that smiling face. I love you. As soon as Shangguan Lan heard the words Chu Yang, her heart was beating wildly. She didn't know what to do. She blushed and wished she could find a hole to hide in. She thought, how can you say such shameful words in front of others? Wild dog. The animals of the Sky Academy roared and almost went crazy. Chu Yang didn't even look at them and continued, not only because of your appearance, but also because of my appearance when I'm with you. Chapter 12-14. I love you. Again, the eyes of the animals in the Sky Academy were almost spitting fire. Xie Jinwan also stared at Chu Yang coldly. Anger was surging in his heart, and a trace of fierce killing intent was faintly born. Not only because of what you have done for me, but also because of what I can do for you. Chu Yang ignored everything and did what he should do as if there was no one around. I love you because you can call out the most real part of me. I love you because you can pass through the wilderness of my heart as easily as the sun penetrates a crystal. My foolishness, my weakness, and my madness almost don't exist in your eyes. Chu Yang made some changes. He was well aware of what he had done before, so he added a madness to the story. He felt no guilt. After the love poem was made, it no longer belonged to the poet, but to the person who needed it. But the most beautiful place in my heart is illuminated by your light. No one else has bothered to travel so far. They all find it too troublesome to find me, so no one has discovered my beauty. That's why no one has ever come here. When Chu Yang finished reading, he found that the eyes of the animals in the Sky Academy were almost red. Their eyes could kill people, and he could even clearly feel a few blazing killing intents. He didn't care at all. He shrugged and spread out his hands, saying to the crowd, I can't help it. The person I love is so excellent. Wild dog, who doesn't know that she is excellent? You don't need to say that. If the animal's eyes could bite people, Chu Yang's bones would have been bitten into pieces by now. Shangguan Lan's eyes were blurred. She stared at Chu Yang blankly. Every time he said I love you, she was so shy that she couldn't control herself. But since Chu Yang dared to say it, how could she not listen to him? And every word that followed seemed to touch her heart. My lord, can you be more subtle? You will scare my heroine. All of a sudden, the parrot opened its mouth, and countless murderous gazes locked onto it. However, this made the parrot feel even more of a sense of existence. It continued, such a method of courtship has never been done before, and will never be done again. It's straightforward, but it's very violent. My lord, there are pros and cons I see. Chu Yang rubbed his chin and began again, I've been searching for you since I was young, and I've only just realized my love. But you don't seem to have feelings. One is the Luan and Phoenix's dwelling, the contract of life and death is shared with Zishore. The first is the falling of the hero in the flowing water, the world looks at each other coldly. After hearing this, the horny students of the Sky Academy felt that it was indeed more subtle. Although they were very angry, they didn't react so fiercely. However, someone soon cried out in alarm. That's not right. The man was furious. He was so angry that he pointed at Chu Yang. Wild dog, you're shameless. Shameless, where did this shameless come from? Many animals were dumbfounded. Waha! The parrot laughed. Idiots, I'll explain my lord's talent to you. You should pay attention to the first word of each sentence and connect them together. How about that? Chu Yang was slightly surprised. He looked at the first person who yelled out. This was a talent. The acrostic poem was clear at a glance when it was written on the paper, but when it was read out, it was not so easy to notice. In addition, it had to be said that the parrot was also talented. It was really good at copying words. At that moment, many people tried to copy it. The first word of the first sentence is me, and the second word of the second sentence is love. Chapter 12:15. The first word in the third sentence is you. When they are connected together, it means I love you. When the last four sentences are connected together, it means I love you forever. In this case, it means I love you forever. As soon as the result came out, the horny students in the Sky Academy were in an uproar again. Wild dog was really shameless. He said I love you forever. Didn't he know it was immoral? In the face of such censure, Chu Yang could only roll his eyes. Immoral? In my previous life, I have seen people nibbling and hugging each other as if no one else was around. It's immoral. You don't know what it is like. Shangguan Lan now wanted to escape, but she also didn't want to escape. Chu Yang was crazy. She was ashamed, but she seemed to want to hear it. Everyone, I'm sorry. You actually saw the code. I'll change it again. Again. Every horny student in the Sky Academy wanted to kill someone. They were also envious of Chu Yang's craziness. If they were so crazy, they could also say I love you to their goddess logically. They maliciously believed that what Chu Yang had done before was his real purpose. Humiliating Xiao Chang'e, Xiong Longxiang, the Nirvana sage, the Dharma sage, the soul-merging sage, and Liu Yunpeng were actually all foreshadowing. Wild Dog was now showing his true intention. His target was the goddess in their hearts. Therefore, they could not help but be impressed. The Wild Dog was really going all out. In order to say such a sentence, he had done many things that did not care for his life. Ahum, ahum, ahum. Chu Yang cleared his throat and wrote a poem again. I, Chu Yang, look forward to a beautiful woman. My dream comes true. You are free and easy, young and bright. Our hearts are bound together. We live and spend the years together, I'll love you forever. Before Chu Yang could finish his sentence, another animal student scolded, Wild Dog, you haven't changed, have you? Chu Yang nodded and admitted, that must not change. It must always be I love you for life. Only then can I show my true feelings. It will not change even in death. He stroked his chin. It's just that I didn't expect you to be so smart this time. I haven't even finished reading, but you already know everything. Yuan 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 yuan. The animals in the sky courtyard were already cursing. Talented, Chu Hang is really talented, this divine bird has to admit. The parrot sighed inwardly. Yet again, it realized that it was far inferior to Chu Yang. Then it said, I have to say, my lord is truly talented. You blockheads have been enlightened. You should be grateful. This will serve as a model for all of you when it comes to chasing girls. His words were like a wake-up call. Many animals were unhappy, but they could only curse. What he said made sense. If they were not afraid of Sima Jian, many of them would have beaten Chu Yang. Anyway, Kui Xinhu and the other two were already in a cold sweat. Chu Yang had gone too far. How dare he be so frivolous to the goddess of the sky courtyard? The palms of the three of them were already sweating. Do you like it? Chu Yang suddenly said to Shangguan Lan, which made the animals suddenly wake up. Yes, why did they pay attention to the shameless Wild Dog? How could they not be angry when their goddess was so frivolous? As far as they knew, their goddess's cultivation was extremely amazing. Therefore, they had been waiting for Wild Dog to be beaten to the point that he doubted his life. However, after hearing this, the goddess in their hearts actually let out a coy sound and fled. Chapter 12:16. Shameless. Shangguan Mai also blushed. She cursed at Chu Yang and left as if she was escaping. Rogue. The little red bird also said to Chu Yang. Then, it fluttered its wings and flew away. In an instant, the beauty was gone, leaving only the fragrance lingering in the air. Seniors, I've passed the assessment, right? I choose the outer yard where the person I love is. After Chu Yang spoke, he also ran away quickly. Swoosh, swoosh. The parrot and Kui Xinhu also ran away quickly. They didn't want to face the public's anger and be beaten to a pulp. Wild Dog, where are you going? Wild Dog, don't think you can leave without making it clear. Wild Dog, I'll kill you today. The animals chased after them, but no matter how they shouted, they could only eat the dust behind them. Everyone, let me remind you, you'll die. Chu Yang's words made the people in pursuit shudder. It was as if they had fallen into an ice cave. They saw that they were not far away from the sealed spacetime passageway. Thinking of Sima Jian, that homicidal maniac, the group of people fled frantically. The scene was in chaos. Damn it, Wild Dog, I'll kill you. Xie Wanjin's face was ferocious, and he left with endless killing intent. Watching all this, the Nirvana sage couldn't help but sneer. Wild Dog, you're courting death. I'm afraid he doesn't know what a femme fatale is. Humph. The soul-merging sage, who woke up, also said bitterly. If he chooses the outer yard, he'll die faster, if I remember correctly. The eyes of the Fa Xiong sage flashed with cold light. According to the rules of our Sky Academy, after the entrance assessment, it will be the chores yard assessment, and then the outer yard assessment. When new students entered, there would naturally be students entering a higher level. Only in this way could they ensure an endless stream of students. The outer yard assessment should be the death of Wild Dog. The Fa Xiong sage finally concluded. Yes, our Sky Academy emphasizes courage and hard work, and we rarely consider the life and death of students in the assessment. I wouldn't be surprised if Wild Dog was besieged during the assessment. Especially after what happened today, I'm afraid no one who admires Shangguanlan can tolerate Wild Dog. Everyone who admires Shangguanlan has amazing talent and background. Wild Dog will definitely die. Sage Nirvana. 3 people were humiliated by Chu Yang today and all hated Chu Yang to the bone. What a pity. Sage Melted Soul said, we've been humiliated for no reason today, but whether this Wild Dog is Eastern Wilderness 002 or not, we're getting more and more confused. We can't figure it out at all. As soon as these words came out, the 3 of them felt incomparably defeated. With their status, they actually couldn't do anything to a Wild Dog. It was really shameful. Forget it. Nirvana Sage let out a long sigh. Chu Yang, this Wild Dog, is indeed astonishing. He is practically invincible in the same realm. It's not like we didn't gain anything. This was a forced self-consolation. Humph. Sage Melted Soul thought that he was like a bug being crushed by a car in the competition of domains. He couldn't help but snort again. We've found out a lot about Wild Dog. Whether he is Eastern Wilderness 002 or not, I'm afraid he will die in the outer yard assessment. Not necessarily. If Chu Yang, this Wild Dog, is Eastern Wilderness 002, I'm afraid what will happen at that time? Besides, Sima Jian, that old man, has to consider. If Wild Dog dies, I'm afraid that the old man will go berserk. Maybe he will open the seal of the space-time channel and attract the extraterrestrial demons. Sage Nirvana Sage and Fa Xiong Sage were not as optimistic as Sage Melted Soul. After that, the 3 of them also left. What happened today formed a huge storm in the Sky Academy. Chapter 12:17. Many people only paid attention to Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and the others, but very few people paid attention to such a person, Gong Sun Long. Chu Yang sensed Gong Sun Long's killing intent, but Gong Sun Long was not the only one who wanted to kill him, so he didn't pay much attention to him. Although he didn't pay attention to Gong Sun Long, it didn't mean that Gong Sun Long didn't pay attention to Chu Yang. A dog that bites doesn't bark. Gong Sun Long saw everything with his eyes, but he did not move or say anything. He was just like a hunter sizing up his prey, observing his new prey, thinking about how to capture it, kill it, dig out its heart, peel its skin, and grind its bones to dust. Maybe I don't even need to kill this Wild Dog. After Gong Sun Long left, he sent someone to investigate Chu Yang's background and thought about it carefully. He naturally wanted to kill Chu Yang and avenge his brother, but he was very afraid of Chu Yang's identity. Was the Wild Dog the descendant of the Supreme Demon Venerable? Gong Sun Liang was not the only one in the Sky Academy. Many people were thinking about this question, including Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin. None of them were stupid. The only difference was that Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin had made up their minds to kill Chu Yang and vowed to kill Chu Yang. They were now thinking about how to deal with the situation after killing Chu Yang. Of course, Sima Jian was also in their consideration. After all, Sima Jian was a ruthless man who had shocked the Sky Academy. What happened in the Sky Academy naturally spread to the whole East continent. Because Chu Yang claimed to be Eastern Wilderness 002, it also caused a great shock. When Chu Yang made a high-profile confession and created a mess to shock the whole Sky Academy and claimed to be Eastern Wilderness 002, a group of people entered the East continent from the Eastern Wilderness. 3 people and 1 little beast, Chu Yang's elder brother, Chu Fei, Saint Child Zither, Silver Wolf, and Xiao Guari. I never thought that I would come to the Eastern continent again and step on this land. Returning to his old home, Chu Fei looked at his recovered arm and sighed. Yeah, I didn't expect it either. The Saint Child sighed as she looked into the distance. I've thought that one day, I would definitely step foot on this land, but I didn't expect it to be so soon. At this moment, the Silver Wolf's emotions were also complicated. He was rescued by his master, Elder Gold, and brought back to the Eastern Wilderness. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 years had passed. At that time, he was still a baby. The 3 of them had different emotions. Chu Fei might be angry because of his broken arm, while Saint Child Qinyan was angry because of the Gongsun family. As for the silver wolf, it was because of his deep hatred. However, other than him and the Gold Elder, no one else knew about it. His enemy was too strong. Why? This is the East Continent. Xiao Guari looked at everything curiously. Let's go to the deserted village first. Chu Fei said, after the silver wolf and Xiao Guari complete the rules of heaven and earth, we'll find the little sheep. Speaking of the little sheep, Chu Fei couldn't help but laugh. Hee. Hearing these words, the silver wolf seemed to have dissipated all his worries. He said with a sinister smile, I wonder what my senior brother has done to the East Continent. I'm afraid it's not light. The saint child Zither Sound thought about it, and Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. Based on Xiao Guari's personality, I'm sure he's done something big since the East Continent discriminates against people from the Eastern Wilderness. Why? Discrimination? Chapter 12:18. The Zither Saint liked this little guy very much. She patted its head and said, Little Guari, the East Continent is not like the Eastern Wilderness. As I said before, don't be too stupid and naive here. Otherwise, you might really be sold. Chu Fei thought of Little Guari's naivety and couldn't help but laugh. Little Guari. The silver wolf also laughed at Little Guari. You've been with my senior for so long, and you're still like this. If you didn't follow my senior, I really don't know how stupid you would be. Why? Little Guari was indignant. How could it be stupid? Haha. The three of them laughed. Chu Fei said to Little Guari, Let's go, Little Guari. You can still be naive in the barren village. Once we leave the barren village, you'll have to put away your rotten good intentions. Chu Fei had been to the East Continent before, so he naturally knew about the barren village. To be exact, he was very familiar with the barren village and knew many people there. The three of them and one beast went straight into the barren village. Soon, they were noticed by 7 or 8 youths. 3 more people from the Eastern Wilderness. Could it be another Chu Yang? If another Chu Yang comes, the people of the Eastern Wilderness will dominate the world. Even if there aren't more people, Eastern Wilderness 002 alone is enough to overturn the entire East Continent. That's right. Ever since the incident at the Seven Wheels Demon Realm, the people of the East Continent don't dare to call us wild dog under normal circumstances. These youths were at the age where they worshipped others. After learning about the incident at the Seven Wheels Demon Realm, they worshipped Chu Yang. Therefore, when they saw Chu Fei and the others, they thought of Chu Yang and everything he had done. They couldn't help but feel excited. Moreover, the more they talked, the more excited they became. Chu Yang Eastern Wilderness 002 Seven Wheels Demon Realm. When Chu Fei and the other two heard this, they couldn't help but smile bitterly. Just as they had expected, Chu Yang had indeed done something big in the East Continent. However, they were not very surprised, especially Chu Fei. Originally, it was just Chu Yang who was in Coiling Dragon Town. The Eastern Wilderness was also very big for Chu Yang, but what happened in the end? Now, everyone in the Eastern Wilderness knew his name, and no one dared to disrespect him. The Eastern Wilderness was huge, but Chu Fei had ample reason to believe that if his younger brother, Chu Yang, could conquer the Eastern Wilderness, he could also conquer the entire Eastern Continent. Regarding this point, Chu Fei did not doubt it, and all of this was only a matter of time. Shoo. A group of 5 appeared. The one-armed man in the lead suddenly released his aura, causing the few youths in the barren village to immediately stop talking. Their faces were pale, and they trembled. Among the 5, the one-armed man was dignified, but not ferocious. However, the 4 people behind him were incomparably ferocious. At this moment, the 4 people behind the one-armed man emitted a murderous aura, causing the 7 or 8 youths in the barren village to be very frightened. Uncle Hu, we were wrong. Uncle Hu, we shouldn't have said such things so casually. Slap. One of them even raised his hand and slapped himself in the face, but he didn't say anything. Not long after, the 7 or 8 youths calmed down, and their fear completely disappeared. Uncle Hu, please be faster with your knife later, a 15 or 16-year-old youth said to the one-armed man. If this one-armed man was not Uncle Hu, who else could it be? At this moment, Uncle Hu was already frowning. These were all good children. It was normal for them to make mistakes at such a young age. How could he take their lives? It's good that you know you were wrong. Uncle Hu quickly came to a decision. The village warned you time and time again, but you didn't keep it in mind. If we weren't in the barren village just now, do you know what would have happened? Chapter 12:19. Before we left the eastern wilderness, we were repeatedly warned not to kill anyone. Today is your first offense, so you will be grounded for 3 months. Do you have any complaints? As soon as Uncle Hu finished speaking, one of the people behind him said, "No, we won't be able to face the truth if we don't kill him. If this goes on, his identity will be exposed soon." That's right. Even though he said it first, we have to worry about his safety. He's already in a precarious situation among tigers and wolves. The slightest mistake could put his life in danger. How can we ignore his safety just because we value their lives? The fierce-looking people behind Uncle Hu were incomparably cold. They had already made up their minds to kill. As for Uncle Hu, he was already speechless. If this happened outside, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not to mention that Chu Yang's identity would be exposed. If these people fell into the hands of the people from the eastern continent, their lives would be in danger. Don't blame us. We're killing you so that your parents and brothers and sisters won't be slaughtered like dogs in the future. After hearing this, the 7 or 8 youths said, "Uncles, we understand that we should be punished for our mistakes. We have no complaints. However, please be quick with your knives and give us a quick death." Good, as expected of the children of our eastern wilderness village. None of them are cowards. On the side, Chu Fei and the others were horrified when they saw this. They were just discussing a few words, and they were about to kill. "Uncle Hu, stop." With a whoosh, Chu Fei leaped and flew in front of Uncle Hu. He then cupped his fists and said to Uncle Hu, "Uncle Hu, what kind of mistake is this? You don't have to kill." "Yaya." Lil Guari was also angry. Chu Fei then said to the people behind Uncle Hu, "Brother Yang, Brother Yi, Brother Wang, we haven't seen each other for almost a year. Can you give me some face?" Chu Fei, Uncle Hu, and the others all knew him. "Brother Chu, I'm afraid that's not possible." One of the 4 fierce-looking men said, "If I didn't recognize you, Brother Chu, you would have died here today." Uncle Hu and the others had already seen Chu Fei, and they did this to give Chu Fei and the others a warning. Chu Fei was definitely going to enter the barren village, and he would find out sooner or later. "Brother Yang, you are not the only ones who have been humiliated in the East Continent." Chu Fei spoke again. "The butcher knife in our hands should not be pointed at our own people, but at those who discriminate against us in the East Continent. Who are you? Did we ask you to beg for mercy on our behalf? Say no more. We made a mistake, and we deserve to die. There's no need for you to plead for us." Chu Fei pleaded for mercy for these 7 or 8 youths, but they did not appreciate it at all. "Do you see this, Brother Chu? This is the seed of our eastern wilderness," Brother Yang said proudly. "The seed of our eastern wilderness is like this, and you still want to kill it." Chu Fei could not help but show a trace of anger on his face. "You guys, this is too much. Even the Saint Child could not stand by and watch." "Hee hee." The silver wolf sneered and said, "Only idiots would do such a thing. You're making your enemies happy and your friends suffer." Yah. Xiao Guari was even angrier, and its little paw pointed directly at the man who spoke to Chu Fei. "Brother Chu, you don't have to say anything. We know what we're doing. Brother Yang, can't you give me some face? Your face is not enough." Chu Fei was angry and said coldly, "Then is my little brother's face enough? Brother Yang, can you give my little brother some face?" "Little brother?" Chu Fei's little brother. Chapter 12:20. Brother Chu, who is your little brother? After that, Brother Yang and the others couldn't help but look at Chu Fei. Chu Fei smiled. "Brother Yang, listen carefully. His name is Yang. He should be the Chu Yang you're talking about, Eastern Wilderness 002. Boom. Uncle Hu and the others were shaken to the extreme. They were extremely shocked and astonished. Guys, can you give my little brother some face? Saint Child Zither also said, my little brother's name is also Yang. The Chu Yang you're talking about is Eastern Wilderness 002. Hee hee. Silver Wolf also smiled. Guys, can you give senior brother some face? His name is also Yang. The Chu Yang you're talking about is Eastern Wilderness 002. Yeah. Xiao Guori cried, saying that Chu Yang was its brother. Could they give its brother some face? After Uncle Hu recovered from his shock, he couldn't help but smile bitterly at Chu Fei. Ah Fei, do you have to be like this? Do you have to show off like me? It wasn't just Uncle Hu. Even Brother Yang and the other 4 fierce-looking people felt a little indignant. They had seen people showing off, but never to this extent. Yes, it's very necessary, Chu Fei said very seriously. Because Uncle Hu, Brother Yang, your brains are stuck in the door. Paper can't wrap fire. There are no secrets in this world forever. What you did just now, in my little brother's words, is already deformed. You're completely abnormal. It's indeed necessary, and it's extremely necessary, Saint Child Zither emphasized. Little brother, if he knows that many people in the barren village died at your hands because of him, I think he'll curse you until you can't raise your heads. He'll even strip you naked and hang you up to dry. Uncle Hu and the others were speechless for a while. They knew very well that Chu Yang had already done this in the Sky Courtyard. And after hearing this, they were very sure of the identities of these people. Without a doubt, they were Chu Yang's friends and relatives. Hee hee. Silver Wolf continued with a smirk, don't think that this is the highest punishment. I think with my senior brother's character, if he knew about this, he would probably explode with anger. Maybe he would even invent some new inventions on you. I can guarantee that with my character, you will definitely be miserable. Ya. Lil Guari mimicked the Silver Wolf and Saint Child Zither Melody's cries. However, it finally realized that it couldn't scare anyone. Instantly, it could not help but be enraged. It swung its claws, but nothing came out. Ever since it entered the East Continent from the Eastern Wilderness, everything on its body had returned to zero. Its cultivation had not recovered at all, so it could only sulk. However, this was more than enough for Uncle Hu and the others. After the 3 men and 1 beast showed off in front of them, they taught them a lesson in unison. Not a single one of them was left behind. Uncle Hu and the others wanted to curse out loud. With a younger brother like this, a senior brother like this, and an elder brother like this, did they think they were amazing? However, the younger brother, senior brother, and elder brother of the 3 men and 1 beast were really amazing. Uncle Hu and the others immediately lost their temper. As for the 7 or 8 youths, they looked at Chu Fei and the others enviously. They were extremely shocked. So they are the brothers of Eastern Wilderness 002. Brother Yang, can you give me some face now? Chu Fei suddenly said to Brother Yang with a smile, extremely proud of himself. Brother Yang was annoyed and said in a muffled voice, Brother Chu, you bastard. I suddenly realize that I hate your so-called younger brother to the bone. Hehe, my younger brother especially likes it when people hate him like this. Chu Fei became even more pleased with himself. He smiled and said, in the end, he will say to you, bite me to death if you can. Brother Yang was extremely irritated. He really wanted to bite Chu Fei to death immediately. Can't you give me a way out? I haven't seen you for more than a year, and you're already so ruthless. Brother Yang's eyes were already spitting fire as he glared at Chu Fei. Haha. Chu Fei strode over and patted Brother Yang's shoulder. He laughed and said, Brother Yang, why are you so angry? Chu Fei's younger brother is your younger brother. Isn't that Brother Li and Brother Yi's younger brother? Brother Yang and the others were stunned for a moment. Then, they suddenly smiled brightly. What he said made sense. Haha. Brother Yang's anger was immediately appeased. He laughed loudly at Chu Fei and said, Ah Fei, after seeing you, I finally heard you say something sensible. Let's go and drink. Tonight, we won't go back until we're drunk. Chapter 1221. After Chu Yang slipped back, at noon the next day, He used the celestial demon walking skill to hide his eastern wilderness aura and changed his appearance. He came out casually and wandered around the sky courtyard. No one knew him, so he found someone to brag about. Although the parrot tried its best to go out, it could only stay in the space ring. Chu Yang took advantage of the impact of what he had done previously. He successfully learned of Shangguan Lan's whereabouts from the bragging. Then, he beat up the person who bragged to him. After doing all the vulgar things, he went to find Shangguan Lan. There were a few tired clouds floating in the sky. Under their gaze, Chu Yang approached the courtyard where Shangguan Lan was. It was a lonely path, and the red window was half open. The more he went in, the quieter it became. The sun was high in the sky, and the sunlight shone on his face, making the corners of his eyes shine. Suddenly, Chu Yang raised the corner of his mouth and said with a smirk, "I suddenly came here. I don't know if she will be scared." Chu Yang sneaked into the courtyard skillfully. The courtyard was very elegant, and the corridors, buildings, and rooms were all exquisite. The spring breeze supported the willows, and the beauty of the world was smiling. There was a scenery every 5 steps, and a pavilion every 10 steps. The courtyard was very large, and it felt like a paradise. Suddenly, there was a drizzle. The drizzle was like silk, and the silk was like silk, which suddenly made the place like a paradise on earth. In the center, there was a pool. At this moment, a bright red sparrow was flying on the surface of the water and swimming in the water. It was having fun. "Little bitch, this is your fiancé, a bird I caught when I was a child." Although Chu Yang said so to the parrot, he was not sure if this red bird was the one he caught when he was a child. The parrot had come out of the space. It stood on Chu Yang's shoulder and curled its lips. "I hate red birds, but I like to tease them. Ha ha ha." It habitually made a strange laugh, which was immediately noticed by the red bird. "Who?" The red bird was furious and popped its head out of the water. "That shameless man is peeping at me." Me. Chu Yang. He now had some doubts about Shangguan Lan. She might not be a pretty girl from a humble family, but the kind that should be popular. Otherwise, how could she have raised such a lousy bird? It was just like a parrot. Chu Yang regained his original appearance. His original appearance shone brightly. "So it's you, you little sheep, you shameless person." When the red bird made a sound, Chu Yang knew that it was the bird from when he was young. He smiled and said, "Little Red, long time no see." "Long time no see my ass." Little Red immediately spat, "We just met yesterday, long time no see." "There is more." Little Red suddenly covered its chest with its wings and shouted, "Little sheep, you peeked at me bathing. You have to take responsibility, or I won't live anymore." Chu Yang was sweating profusely. Lil Red had become so shameless. Even if it was bathing just now, it was still wearing clothes. It was too much to take responsibility. As soon as it came, Lil Red gave him a surprise and got off to a good start. "Little bitch, did you hear that? You peeked at me bathing. You have to take responsibility." Chu Yang pondered for a while and felt that Little Red might have taken a fancy to the parrot. He immediately matched it. Even if it was not, he could divert the fire. Damn the parrot, not dead Chu Yang. Ah. Chapter 1222. The parrot overreacted and jumped 3 feet into the air. "I hate red birds." Little Red's reaction was even more intense, and a column of water rose from the water. "I hate parrots, especially shameless parrots, parrots that imitate others." "I was peeking, I admit that I was peeking, but you were wearing clothes, and I was just looking at a bird in the water. There's no need to take responsibility." The parrot opened its mouth and shot out like a machine gun. "If you want to take responsibility, then I have to see a hairless bird. If you have the ability, then pluck all your feathers." Little Red's eyes were spitting fire. "Phut, you parrot want to take responsibility for me? You don't have any literary talent, and you don't have any martial arts skills. Keep dreaming. A toad bird wants to eat swan meat. Who are you calling a toad? You're the female toad." The parrot and Little Red first argued, then fought. The two birds fought in midair, and the sound of banging rang out incessantly, and all kinds of light exploded from time to time. The light was very dazzling, and in the void of daytime, it was like fireworks. Tortoise versus mung bean, enemies will meet. Parrot and Little Red, I have high hopes for you. I'm waiting to drink your wedding wine. With two plops, Chu Yang opened his mouth, and the parrot and Little Red fell together as if they had been shot down. Then, they were entangled together, and stared at Chu Yang angrily. Don't look at me like that. Chu Yang laughed. You two have too much chemistry. You might not realize it now, but you will eventually realize how deeply you love each other. You are a match made in heaven. Little sheep, you fart so smelly. Chu Hang, you fart so smelly. Chu Yang shrugged, spread his hands, and said to the two birds, you use the same words. What else is there to say? Looking at you two hugging each other, a single dog like me really can't stand your stimulation. The parrot and Little Red immediately realized that they were in a situation. Just now, they were fighting together, and when they fell, they were entangled together. Whoosh whoosh. The two birds also separated as fast as they could. They both trembled as if goosebumps had appeared all over their bodies. At the same time, each of them used their wings to beat around their bodies, trying to get rid of all the dirt. Lil Red was at a disadvantage, and the parrot even pulled out many of its feathers. Shameless parrot, you imitator, get out of here. If you're so popular, you'll never be able to get married. Little Red was so angry that it almost fainted. It seemed that it was completely unable to deal with the parrot, because it found that it could not be as shameless as the parrot, so it directly attacked it. The two birds started fighting again. Sigh, we are birds of the same forest. Why are you in such a rush to kill each other? Chu Yang's words almost made the two birds fall down again. They felt as if mud had fallen into their pants, and they couldn't wash it clean no matter how hard they tried. After saying that, Chu Yang stepped forward. Just as he was about to go deeper, he suddenly saw two beautiful figures. He was stunned. What he saw was not two people, but a painting, two beauties in the painting. A dark green pleated skirt danced in the wind, intoxicated by the beautiful scenery in the courtyard. 3,000 strands of black hair fluttered in the air like silk. She was wearing a veil, but her bright eyes fell into Chu Yang's eyes. They were overflowing with amorous feelings. Through the thin veil, he could vaguely see her light red lips and snow-white skin that seemed like it could be broken with a flick of his finger. How could he look at people like that? Facing Chu Yang's gaze, Shangguan Lan could still look him in the eye at first, but she suddenly lowered her head shyly. Lecture. Shangguan Mai glared at Chu Yang. Chapter 1223. Shangguan Mai had seen many geniuses and Evilders, but she had never seen someone like Chu Yang. After being reprimanded, he was still calm and collected, and he continued to flirt with her. Those geniuses and Evilders, which one of them did not blush after being reprimanded by her? But now, it was her miss who was blushing. Little Lan, I haven't seen you for so many years. How have you been these years? This was the first time Chu Yang spoke without hesitation. I'm doing very well. Shangguan Lan seemed to be shy and excited, and she was unable to restrain her emotions. For so many years, the little boy who had always comforted her when she was a child was finally standing in front of her at this moment. But suddenly, thousands of words disappeared, and she did not know what to say. In the end, it became this sentence: Brother Yang, how about you? Look at how handsome I am. You should know. Chu Yang opened his arms, showing himself in front of Shangguan Lan, and even turned around. From Shangguan Lan's tone, he did not feel that kind of isolation and strangeness, and he was very happy. Shangguan Mai saw that Chu Yang was so narcissistic and friendly, and saw that her miss was amused, and she could not help but hold her forehead. If it was someone else, like Chu Yang, they would probably be lying down and carried out. Chu Yang and Shangguan Lan talked for a while, and their tone became more relaxed. The two were more easygoing with each other, as if they had known each other for many years. Suddenly, Chu Yang laughed and said, Lan Lan, I haven't seen you for so many years. Don't you want me to see what you look like now? Take off your veil and let your brother goat see how beautiful you have become after all these years. Shangguan Lan's face suddenly turned red, but after being shy for a while, she finally took off her veil. A woman would dress up for her lover. She wore a veil, among other reasons, but the main reason was Chu Yang. When she took off her veil, Chu Yang was directly stunned, frozen in place. At this moment, the world seemed to be stagnant, and the nearby beautiful scenery, people and things were all silent. The parrot was also completely stunned. She was too beautiful. If the perfect score was 100, it could give Shangguan Lan 120 points. She was so beautiful that it was somewhat unreal. At this time, even Little Red and Shangguan Mai, who were often around Shangguan Lan, were stunned. Shangguan Lan today seemed to be more beautiful than usual, and there was a kind of fascinating and intoxicating charm on her. She was wearing a long dress that outlined her perfect curves. It was too perfect. She was wearing light makeup. Her eyelashes were very long, and her big eyes were misty and intoxicating. Her lips were bright red, and her face was fair and translucent. At first glance, it was difficult to describe her appearance. He only felt that all words were empty, and the person in front of him was so beautiful that it was almost illusory. Chu Yang was completely amazed. Her hair was as lustrous as silk, her figure was perfect, very tall, her neck was exposed, white and translucent, her towering height, moving curves and curves. The dress was very thin at the waist, and it was very fitting, highlighting her amazingly slender waist. She was graceful and moving. She had a pair of straight and slender legs, and her ankles were as white and delicate as ivory, with a little luster. Just looking at her ankles, Chu Yang seemed to have seen a pair of beautiful jade feet, as delicate as mutton-fat jade. When Chu Yang recalled this day in the future, he had to admit that at this moment, he lost his soul and his eyes were fixed. Shangguan Lan's face was extremely beautiful, like a dream, and there was absolutely no flaw. She had long eyelashes, smart and moving eyes, a straight nose, sexy lips, and the moist luster on them were extremely dazzling. Chapter 1224. Half-closed small window, fragrant tea, picturesque ink, such a good fate. Chu Yang was dazed for a while, and after Shangguan Lan was shy for a while, the two recovered. After talking for a while, they drank tea in the elegant room. As soon as Chu Yang took a sip of tea, he screamed. After a period of contact, Shangguan Lan had gradually adapted to Chu Yang's style of doing things. To be exact, it was Chu Yang's shamelessness. She couldn't help but roll her eyes, and said in her heart, "Who wants to marry you? Ah, my soul has been taken away again." Chu Yang was exaggerating, but there was also great truth in it. Shangguan Lan's eye roll also had an indescribable charm. He said with incomparable passion, "Why can her every frown, smile, and move go straight into my heart, and even attract my every inch of sight, and my talent? The fragrance of tea fills the room, but how can the fragrance of tea smell like human fragrance? Just seeing that woman roll her eyes is enough to kill me." Shangguan Lan rolled her eyes again. She felt very magical. Although she and Chu Yang were very close when they were young, after not seeing each other for so many years, in such a short period of time, they seemed to have returned to the past, as if Chu Yang had never left her side. It could almost be said that there was not much unfamiliarity between the two now. Maybe it's because of Brother Goat's shamelessness, sticking to me as soon as I came up. Shangguan Lan said in her heart, and blamed everything on Chu Yang. She had to admit that Chu Yang's unorthodox and casual behavior had imperceptibly erased the sense of strangeness between the two. "Little Bitch and Little Red, you are a pair of enemies. Why don't you fight at this critical time? I need you to liven things up now." Fat. Shangguan Lan couldn't help laughing when she heard this. She found it funny when the parrot and Little Red were fighting before. "Little Bitch, Little Red, look, it's hard to get a beautiful woman's smile again. You still need to work hard. I'm optimistic about you too." Chu Yang continued to tease the two birds. The Supreme Master, who says there is light, there is light. For the Master, this divine bird can go through mountains of swords and seas of fire, but this is the only thing I can't do. I'm allergic to red. The parrot didn't forget to humiliate Little Red all the time. Little Red was furious. "I'm allergic to shamelessness." Fat. Shangguan Lan smiled again, and so did Chu Yang. "You two are enemies. You two can continue. Little sheep." Chu Hang. The two birds couldn't stand him any longer. They attacked at the same time, but they were all suppressed by Chu Yang. Then, he trapped the two of them together, eye to eye, mouth to mouth, and wing to wing. He even lectured them, "You're rebelling. You two little enemies, you haven't even lived in the same nest, but you're actually joining forces to clamor. If you really live together in the future, won't you be able to climb the roof and tear down the tiles?" Shangguan Mai wanted to rescue Little Red. Although she was a bird, after all, men and women were not allowed to touch each other. However, Chu Yang glared at her. "Little girl, do you want to rebel too? Kaka." Shangguan Mai gritted her teeth and glared at Chu Yang with her beautiful eyes. She couldn't wait to eat Chu Yang alive. Shangguan Lan was completely speechless with Chu Yang. He couldn't be serious for a while. Now, he even teased my brother goat, "I have something to tell you." Chu Yang quickly slipped away. Shangguan Mai's realm was now much higher than his, at least the Nirvana realm. "Little Lan, say it." Your brother goat is listening attentively. That kind of evil smile made Shangguan Lan instantly have goosebumps. Looking at Chu Yang walking towards her, she felt as if a big bad wolf was walking towards her. Chapter 12:25. She wanted to hit him, but she held it in. Brother Yang, Liu Yunpeng, whom you humiliated yesterday, is the descendant of a demon saint. He has the demon saint's secret techniques and murderous weapons. You have to be careful. Chu Yang's heart sank. Shangguan Lan mentioned Liu Yunpeng to him. Obviously, this Liu Yunpeng was extraordinary. However, he smiled. It's not a big deal. He still owes me 1,000 spirit veins. Haha. Shangguan Lan suddenly laughed. Yesterday, Liu Yunpeng was probably angered to death by Chu Yang. He helped her vent her anger. Liu Yunpeng kept pestering her, which annoyed her to no end. Also, Brother Yang, you have to be careful of Xia Wanjin. She continued, Xia Wanjin is not only rich, but is also not simple. I haven't seen him fight yet. He's mysterious and unfathomable. I'll kill him with money next time. Chu Yang made Shangguan Lan laugh again. Time flew. Time passed very quickly. Chu Yang ate at Shangguan Lan's place and joked around for a while before leaving. At this time, the sky had already darkened. It's not easy to meet in a sea of billions of people and have the same tacit understanding. You know my stubbornness, I know your temper. Two hearts are close, Chu Yang hummed a song. He was extremely happy. He was not completely unfamiliar with Shangguan Lan, and she completely satisfied all his expectations. This is Grandpa Chu, my fiancé. Thinking of this, he smiled crookedly. Swoosh. At this time, a burst of fragrant wind floated in the air. A graceful figure suddenly appeared from the side, and blocked Chu Yang's path. At the same time, the girl's delicate fragrance poured into his nose. It was an extremely beautiful woman. She was only slightly inferior to Shangguan Lan. The woman wore pink clothes. Her appearance was extremely dignified, but she seemed incomparably seductive. Her fine black hair draped over her shoulders and was only tied up with a pink hairband. Her skin revealed a faint pink color. Her brows were like smoke, fresh and elegant. Her almond-shaped eyes flowed with light, and her lips were like cherry blossoms. Her appearance could be said to be devastatingly beautiful, but Chu Yang was not stunned. Suddenly, his heartstrings tightened, and he became vigilant. Your Lanlan's fiancé. This woman spoke. Her voice was like an oriole's, numbing the bones. Her eyes moved, captivating the soul, extremely charming. As she spoke, she sized up Chu Yang from head to toe, and then commented, You do have a good appearance, but you don't have any background. You're as weak as an ant. I can pinch you to death right now. #yuan %% yuan %. Chu Yang was originally in a wonderful mood, but now he felt as if this woman had poured a bucket of dung on his head. However, the woman in front of him was indeed very strong, ridiculously strong. The moment the woman said that she could pinch him to death with a raise of her hand, the aura she released made his heart palpitate. She was at least in the life and death realm. Do you know how to write the word polite? Do you know how to make people understand their intentions well? Chu Yang could not hold back the anger in his heart. He directly responded with vicious words, big-chested and brainless. Is that how a woman like you is described? At this time, the parrot was happy in its heart. Waha, this divine bird has been sullen for a day. This time, it's Chu Hang's turn to suffer retribution. The woman was directly angered by Chu Yang. She was angered by the ant in her eyes. She originally thought that such an ant would not make her angry at all, but it was broken in an instant. Chu Yang's heart immediately felt a lot better. He said indifferently, big-chested, tell me where you're from, and then explain your intentions clearly. Chapter 1226. Central Continent's Nangong Feiyan. Nangong Feiyan's eyes could kill. The clouds are all low, the shadows are blurry, condensing in the middle. Not smoke nor fog, when the goddess is coming. Nangong Feiyan was shocked. Are you talking about her name? She had to admit that Chu Yang was talented. Only, however, with your personality, your parents shouldn't be so cultured. The name they gave you definitely isn't so meaningful. I am thinking too much. Nangong Feiyan really wanted to kill someone. He even scolded her parents. However, her parents probably didn't have such standards. Do you know Central Continent? When she spoke again, her voice wasn't numbing anymore, it was ice cold, causing the parrot to shiver. Central Continent. Chu Yang had heard of it before, but he didn't know the specifics. Nangong Feiyan understood and mocked. You can say that, like how East Continent discriminates against the Eastern Wilderness, East Continent is just a corner in Central Continent. Do you understand what I am saying? Of course, Chu Yang understood. How could he not? The other party was so arrogant, if he didn't understand, he would be a fool. A toad shouldn't think about eating swan meat, he wasn't worthy. He really didn't know Shangguan Lan's true identity. Until now, he only knew that she was chased by someone and escaped into the Eastern Wilderness. Now, it seemed like Shangguan Lan's identity was shocking. Instantly, Chu Yang felt annoyed. In East Continent, he had a fiancée but didn't dare to admit it, he didn't dare to say it. A man who couldn't protect his own woman was already a coward. Now, this damn woman actually provoked him. Is the East Continent that great? One day, I will trample the Central Continent under my feet. At that time, I will make you, this damned woman, serve me a chamber pot at night. After venting his anger for a while, he said coldly, are you done? Scoff. Nangong Feiyan laughed coldly. Is that sentence not enough? Son of a bitch. Why does yours truly always have to deal with such things? Chu Yang was furious in his heart, but he didn't show it. He only disdainfully said, oh, is the Central Continent that great? After speaking, he also sneered and said to Nangong Feiyan, my one sentence should be enough, right? Nangong Feiyan's beautiful face smiled in disdain, saying such words shows how stupid you are. Do you think it's enough to deal with trash like Liu Yunpeng and Xia Wanjin? It's just that these two trash can also crush you to death. Chu Yang's pupils constricted slightly. He was truly infuriated, but he didn't want the other party to see his anger. He became even more indifferent and calm. Big-chested, if you want to express your disdain for me, I don't have any objections. However, I would like to ask you to organize your words and express your greatest disdain. After a pause, he asked seriously, can I? Although it might be a little difficult for an illiterate like you. Not only did she have big breasts, she was also illiterate. Ka. Nangong Feiyan gritted her teeth. She was a little flustered and exasperated. She realized that in terms of disdain, she was indeed much worse than this wild dog. People have different grades, you are the most lowly type of person, is that enough? After speaking, Nangong Feiyan felt that her anger had been vented. However, when she saw the parrot's gaze, she couldn't help but get angry again. Birds also have different grades, you are the most lowly bird. Damn big breasts, what you said is laughable. Can't a bird even look at you? The parrot directly activated the 3-character scripture in its heart. Big-chested, you really make me unhappy. Chu Yang's voice suddenly turned cold. One day, when you give me a chamber pot at night, I will ask you again, what grade am I? Chapter 1227. That sentence contained too much information. Chu Yang felt a chill down his spine as he broke out in cold sweat. With a xiao, he fled at his fastest speed, disappearing without a trace. Is there something wrong with that sentence? Nangong Feiyan sensed that something was wrong, but he couldn't understand it. At that moment, a voice rang out. There is something wrong, there is a huge problem. Shangguan Lan and Shangguan Mai, as well as Little Red, appeared in front of Nangong Feiyan. Little Red was on Shangguan Mai's shoulder and continued, "You better not think about it, otherwise, you will be angered to death." However, as soon as it finished speaking, Nangong Feiyan understood and screamed like a madman, cutting through the night sky. Chu Yang, who was far away, shivered and fled even more frantically. His speed didn't decrease in the slightest. "Chu Yang, you bastard, I will definitely kill you." Chu Yang heard the voice and was depressed. "What does this have to do with me? I didn't say it." After a pause, he continued, "Moreover, little scum's bickering level isn't something your big breasts can compare to." "Hehe, big breasts, you are just asking for trouble. Master, you are wise and mighty." The parrot broke out in cold sweat. Luckily, Chu Yang knew a lot and fled quickly, otherwise, in front of that woman, his bones would be broken. Nangong Feiyan was still screaming crazily, as if he had eaten something dirty, almost going crazy. "You deserve it." Shangguan Lan spat out such a word. She was really unhappy with Nangong Feiyan's actions. "Shangguan Lan, are you still human? I did it for you." Nangong Feiyan screamed. Shangguan Lan rolled her eyes. "It is for you, right?" Brother Yang said that the clouds are all low, the shadows are blurry, looking at the center. "Feiyan Feiwu, when the goddess is coming, he has already called you a goddess. What else are you dissatisfied with? What does that have to do with your big brother Yang? This name was given to this lady by your uncle Nangong, who dotes on you." Nangong Feiyan was about to go crazy from anger. Her best friend was actually adding insult to injury. "Are you sure?" Nangong Feiyan suddenly choked. How could she not know what her father was like? Shangguan Lan was also very clear about it. Nangong Feiyan's father was good at everything except for the fact that he hated studying. He hated it so much that making him read was worse than killing him. "Do you know why I didn't stop you?" Shangguan Lan spoke again. "It's to teach you a lesson. Bickering with Brother Yang is more infuriating and humiliating. You've found the wrong person. Didn't you see yesterday that Liu Yunpeng was almost angered to death and humiliated to death by him? Shangguan Lan, are you saying that I have big breasts and no brains? I'm going to fight it out with you." Nangong Feiyan was very sensitive about having no brains. The moment she heard Shangguan Lan's words, she immediately flipped out and pounced towards Shangguan Lan. "Fei, don't come over. I can't compare with you or I'll feel inferior." After Shangguan Lan said that, she suddenly laughed. She was very close with Nangong Feiyan, but she definitely wouldn't say such words in the past. Now, she actually said it. The reason, she didn't need to think about it. Chu Yang was shameless and humiliated her in public. It affected her and made her shameless. No, it made her stronger. "Shangguan Lan, you." Nangong Feiyan was in disbelief as she looked at Shangguan Lan in shock. Shangguan Mai was also stunned. If it was Shangguan Lan in the past, she definitely wouldn't say such words. In addition, she also found that ever since Chu Yang appeared, her miss had become much more lively than before. "Fei, that's a strength, not a weakness." At this moment, Shangguan Lan seemed to know why Chu Yang liked to talk nonsense. Especially when she saw how Nangong Feiyan was gritting her teeth, she understood even more clearly. She couldn't help but feel happy. "Shangguan Lan, I think you're really possessed. Today, I'm going to kill the demon." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.